Expansion.
Daniel Deekay Thomas. Let me get that right. Thank you for joining us today, man.
Thank you very much for having me. Bless you, bro.
real honor, real pleasure to have one of my life's dear friends on the show, on the first recording, man, of Expansion. Thank you for joining us, man. How you been?
Nah, good, man. Under this long-term holiday that we're having.
Yeah, under crazy circumstances. For those that don't know, DK and I have been promoting events for a very long time together, hosting events for even longer time. And thanks to COVID-19, we've been out of work for many months. We've often said we were the first ones to close and we'll be the last ones to open.
Definitely.
But we're remaining positive, man, and I think part of the reason why it's important to do these kind of things is to evolve with the times and keep things moving along. So thank you for joining us, my brother, and really looking forward to hearing what you have to say today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
we are a little bit we're a little bit nervous. I think because we've never done something like this, so
not at all.
It's the first one. Not that you can ever get this wrong, but anyway, thank you again, my brother, from the heart.
Nah, thanks for having me, man. It's a real pleasure to be here and an honor to be here, bro.
Thank you, man.
Like, you know how I feel about you, and
God bless, man.
The respect and admiration and everything else.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you, man. Thank you for joining us. And also, Paulie B, man. You guys don't see him behind the
Hey, what's up?
There's my man, Paulie, on Expansion. So yeah, man. So I mean, I guess first of all, Daniel Thomas, MC Deekay MC, brother. So. You're Malaysian Indian background, yeah?
Yes, that's correct.
Awesome. Sydney born? No, you're born over there.
Born in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia.
Okay.
Moved to Ipoh, then Sabah, and came here at the tender age of 10.
Okay, awesome.
92, 93, something like that.
Okay, cool, man. So it's kind of similar to me, man. I came back to Australia when I was 11 years old, so.
Sweet.
So you got like primary schooling and everything over there.
I got up to year 4,
okay.
And then when I moved here, I was in year 4.
Okay, awesome.
At Rosalie Primary School, Carlingford.
Okay, cool. So kind of up this way then, kind of up in the hills, kind of. Yeah.
It's funny how everything came back around. And yeah.
So you've been raised so Sydney mainly up this way, right?
Yeah, that's right. So it was mainly Sydney Carlingford for 3 years. Then we moved to Croydon Park, KMC, for about good 7 to 10 years, I guess, something like that.
Okay.
And then from there, we moved to Revesby. And then from Revesby, I moved out to Kensington.
Oh.
And from Kensington, made it to Pennant Hills. And then now in Parramatta.
And what high school did you go to?
Well, I went to 3, not for any other reason, but not for being bad or anything like that, just that we moved around a lot. So I did year 7 at Carlingford High. And then Asheville Boys from year 8 to 10, and then Regents Park Christian Community from 11 to 12.
Because the old man's a preacher, right?
Yeah, that's right, he's a pastor.
So you moved around with him?
Yes, that's correct. He had different stations or different parishes, let's say.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And it's you and your sister, right? To brother and sister.
Yeah, brother and sister.
Okay, cool, man. Yeah.
The rest of the family's in Malaysia and scattered around Europe.
Oh, okay.
And, but majority of the family on mum's side is in Malaysia.
Okay, awesome. One of the cool things about Sydney, man, you got people from all over the world.
That's right.
We're all mixing and everything, yeah.
Well, I have to say, we were probably early 90s was a bit different, let's say.
Yeah.
Like now, everything looks like a Benetton ad.
Yeah. I think it's been like that for a while, more and more, obviously, as we go. It's super interesting to see in the next 10, 20, 50 years even, all of these mixes and everything. I mean, you hear about people like, I've met people that are like half Kenyan, half Slovenian, and
that's right.
Even like I know
Israeli,
a lot of people.
Japanese.
Yeah, I've actually met a few out west. There's a lot of half Samoan, half Chilean.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's the cool thing, man, about all the colors and all the different peoples mixing, and I always appreciate it as well, having traveled around the world quite a fair bit. And coming from a monoculture, like where I'm from, Uruguay, where you don't see people from, barely see people from, and the cool thing about Sydney is this melting pot, and walking down the road and eating Thai and Lebanese, and jump in a cab and there's an Indian guy, and And
A lot of fusion restaurants now.
yeah, man,
Weird mixes.
amazing. Yeah.
Really good food.
So tell us about shares in Little Miss Collins.
Well, my favorite
Like that, Paulie?
Yeah, shout out to Little Miss Collins. and the
Yeah,
Rooster
man.
Boys.
Shout out to the Musa
Yeah.
boys, man. Yeah, fucking God bless them, man. Hey, the food's amazing, man.
Unbelievable.
Hey, anyone in Parramatta?
Or
Little
Burwood.
Miss Collins,
Or
man.
Burwood.
Or Burwood, yeah.
Or
I've been to Para.
Yeah.
Wow. And I'm not saying that because they're good boys and they're friends of ours, but the food is fucking
Nah,
amazing, man. Yeah.
They know their stuff really
Shout
well.
out to the Moosers.
Yeah.
Pay me.
Membership for life.
No, but if you check out DK's Instagram stories, at least 40. What would you say, Paulie? 40% is Little Miss Collins related, right?
100%.
Oh wow! Damn.
Let's say 90. I mean, I do admit I eat there quite like nearly every day.
Well, it's down the road from your house, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. So the brother DK nowadays in Parramatta.
Yep. that's
Got a
right.
place there?
Never ever thought I'd live in Para, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Congratulations, because it's your own thing there.
Yeah,
with the
yeah.
beautiful Annalise.
That's right.
Shout out to
Lovely wife.
Annalise.
Yep. Shout
Yeah.
out to the wife.
One of the integral members also of the I Love Saturdays
Family,
in the event family.
Daniel!
That's her.
Paulie's impersonation.
Shout out to her, man. God bless her too, and your whole family, my brother. And
Thanks,
again,
bro.
great to have you.
No, thanks for having me.
So tell me something, man. I mean, most of us know you obviously as an MC
Yep.
and as a promoter. I've openly said it many times. In my opinion, the best in the business.
Second to you, in my opinion.
Thank you, my brother. You've been way too courteous. And so your journey as an MC starts around when? Tell us about that whole thing, how it came about.
Ah, man, where do I begin? Look, I'd say probably around the age of 17, 18. I don't know, like I remember going to an underage event, Crush Seagull back in the day.
Yeah.
And one of the boys from Asheville Boys actually who was a year above me. I saw him behind the DJ box with a microphone, and I was like, "What are you doing?" And anyways, we ended up sharing the mic a little bit, and it ended up being a monthly thing because it was a monthly event.
Yeah.
And his cousin, who is Lee Monroe, aka Fig Kid.
Yeah.
was
Shout
the
out to Lee Monroe, man. He's
was
been in the game
official-
for a long time.
That's right. Was the official MC at Crush Seagull back in the day, under the guidance of DJ Hamish, whose uncle, I think it was, or cousin, was running the whole event.
Okay.
And man, it ended up, I think, for a good, between 17 to 18, good 6-month transition. I went there for partying, and then ended up going there every weekend.
Yeah.
Got a feel for the microphone, feel for the crowd, and then someone was like, "Bro," like Shay, which was Lee's cousin, who I went to school with, was like, "Bro, you got a voice for it. Like, why don't you get up and spit?" So I was like, "You know what, man? I'll write my first verse." And because that's what used to happen was we'd rock up, and not just the MCing side, but they'd sit there waiting for the DJ to throw on an instrumental, and everyone would get up, and like 3 or 4 peeps would jump up on the microphone and spit a freestyle.
Yeah.
Freestyle, right? I had no idea or anything like that on what writing bars were or writing verses or anything like that. So the whole experience was, I turned around and said, "Look, when I write my first verse, I'll get up and spit it." So I went home that week and sat down trying to put together some stuff, like, just working out, as long as it rhymed or if it sounded good and things like that, to get up and do it. So I remember the first time I did that, and I got addicted. And then wasn't until, so I started moving around the underage scene a lot. Crush was huge.
Crush was huge, man.
It was huge.
I remember I used to host the Joint at Daintree with all the Club Joint All-Stars. And it was next door. And that itself was huge. But I remember on the nights when both events were on, because they were next door to each other, it was fucking mayhem outside. Like, it was literally thousands of people. And it was just all these like underage kids mixing with overage. And it was just awesome, that side of Darling Harbour before they tore it all down. And nowadays we've got the Commonwealth building and all that side where Braza and all that is. It used to be there, right?
That's right.
One World, Daintree, Seagull World.
Man, what was actually so appealing or cool about that was it was centered in the city, and you had everyone from like northern beaches, from out west, out our area as well. They used to just congregate there and go. So you're looking at about 2,000 kids. from all over Sydney, and it was a great melting pot again, and a great get together. But I mean, there was incidents and trouble, but
Of course.
three major rooms. I was
it was huge, man.
yeah, I was blessed to be in that transition where high energy was the main source of music, and everyone was vibing to that. But I was blessed to be in the transition when R&B took over the main room, and you saw the growth and development of hip hop and R&B.
Yeah.
And
thank fuck for that.
oh man, hands down. And no, that was actually an epic experience. But I got to give a shout out to DJ G Wizard.
Oh, George, my man.
That's probably when my MCing forte or the passion for MCing actually grew and developed. So it wasn't so a good 6 months to a year. Maybe it was just hanging around waiting to spit freestyles and verses and like writing stuff down in your little rhyme book.
Yeah.
And that experience was out at I think Five Dock. There was the Leisure Centre at Five Dock. They used to throw in under 18s.
Wow.
Out there. Yeah.
Never even heard of that.
So there was the main room was, well, I think it was the basketball court or something. It was a massive room, and we had the little tuck shop canteen for the R&B. And I remember I arrived early, and G was on before Hamish was getting on. So I was sitting around waiting. I got there heaps early, and I was sitting behind the DJ box, and George rocks up, and I think he came from a wedding, but he was in a full suit and tie, and I was thinking, who's this professional looking dude? You know what I mean? And he sort of turned around, caught my eye, and he was like, man, what are you doing here? I was like, oh, I'm waiting to get on the mic. I'm waiting for Hamish, I'm supposed to MC. Not understanding what the hell an MC was to do at that point. And George turns around and goes, oh man, jump on the mic. I was like, really? He's like, yeah. And I was like, no, man, I'm just here to rap. And he's like, no, like, host it. Host it. Yeah. And man, the dude actually like counted me in and whatnot. And I ended up ripping Fat Man Scoop's, if you got $100 bill, put your hands up.
Yeah.
That was before, like, Fat Man Scoop was called Big Kappa. And I heard that whole chant on a mixtape, which was a Wu-Tang mixtape. Right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I ended up taxing that before Be Faithful came out and dropped. And I remember George looking at me going, bro, where'd you get that from? And the crowd went off, and man, from that point I was addicted. So all courtesy, and I know George hates me telling that story, but man, I got to give credit where credit's due. And then from that point on, expanded out and ended up hosting all the big events for Crush.
Yeah.
And even Calvin ended up giving me who was the organizer, Calvin Kosh, ended up giving me the run from the city to Bankstown to hand out flyers and stuff.
Ah, okay, cool.
So that's how I got dabbling in the promo stuff.
Yeah, in the game,
as well. Yeah. And started from there.
So when was the first, like, let's say, paid gig when you officially sort of became an MC? Because let's face it, you're not really... Or I'll ask you another question. When was the first time your name was on a flyer? Because I know that's a big thing for all of us.
Yeah, mate... This is before Facebook, before social media,
printed,
before even MySpace. So
no.
The whole goal, I think, for every DJ and MC growing up was to get your name on a flyer,
of course,
and get your name in 3D magazine.
3D, no doubt, 3D world.
I think I wrote a verse going like 3D famous celebrity status.
yeah.
And so the first event would be, where did I go? Because after Crush on Saturdays, I used to head over to the Park Royal, which is across the harbour.
I'm not sure, my brother.
Yeah, there was a gig that was there, and so Crush used to finish at 12, and then I'll go hang out there, and I think it was, I forget the name. I'll get back to you on the name of that.
But it was an overage.
Yeah, it was a club night. And the Twins and Daz and DJ Manny were there.
Okay.
And,
shout out to all them boys, man. Daz, the Twins, Manny, again, been around for a long time.
That's right.
They're still kind of active too, so shout out to them, man.
Definitely.
They're still doing their thing.
And so they'd finish up at around 2 or so, and they'd be like, bro, here's the mic, man. We're gonna go back and party or kick back, So that was my training ground. And I think the first gig, my name that comes to memory was a sports bar in the city, Darling Harbour.
One World.
That's the one. One World. Yeah. So that was with DJ Leno. I ended up tying in with Leno and R&B Super Club.
That was an awesome venue too.
Oh man, and I think it was one of their Summer Jam events that was there. It was a one-off.
Okay.
Yeah. And my name was on the flyer for that. I remember being nervous as.
Well, man, funny you say that, because my first sort of unofficial, because it wasn't. I was rocking. I was around that time. I was dropping a lot of freestyles and stuff, and jumping,
I remember the name.
Jumping up. Yeah, but that's probably a little bit before. Not much before that, but a little bit before that. And I remember I think it was the Sydney Latin All Stars. I was like the kind of Latin MC, whatever. But I mean, at this stage, it's not the Y La Familia or anything like that. It's just a kid that was making a little bit of noise. And very impromptu, they got me up onto the main. I mean, there wasn't a main stage. It was the only stage at Bacardi Festival.
Wow.
That
used to be huge.
Man, that was insane.
Yeah.
2 weeks.
Darling Harbour, right?
Yeah, it was like Thursday to Sunday, and then the following week, Wednesday to Sunday. The second and third week of January, thousands of people. Of course, all of that was erased when the powers that be, which, you know, we're going to talk a little bit more about this later, I think, but they think they're making the right decisions by, say, banning alcohol sponsorship of events, right? And it was incredible international acts and everything. But anyway, I digress. They got me up on stage, and then DJ Don Juan.
Wow, yeah,
Shout out to Dave, man, one of the brothers. He's up in Queensland now, I think. Donnie said to me, "Hey, man, we got the after party at One World. Come and MC."
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And I was like 18, 19 or something. And I remember we're in the back room again, the little room, you know, R&B, and it was Latino, but it was like urban Latin, you know, not like salsa and all that. Yeah. That was the front room with Dwight and all those guys. So it was me and Donnie at the back, and he threw me the mic, and I'd been partying for a long time in Sydney. Those were the crazy days. So I grabbed the microphone, and because I had no idea what the fuck to do, all I did was literally shout out every person in the room. Now, that's the advantage, because I knew everyone from, you know, and so not only was I, you know, sort of gauging that crowd reaction, but also the DJs and everyone at the bar, everyone was like, you know, this guy's doing well. I mean, essentially all I was doing was like, hey, Carlito, hey, Argentina, hey,
funny you say Carlito.
Chile, hey, rah. That's all I was doing. And, you know, and two things. One thing, I think the first thing I learned, which I think is the difference between myself, yourself as well, and many other MCs. There's a lot of boys doing the thing in Sydney that have done that do it very well for a very long time. But the importance of the inclusion of the people. It's not about you know, I'm the fucking man, you know, I've got the mic, you know. It's the inclusion.
And that's what I used to hate about other MCs in a sense, you know.
Yeah. That attitude thing, I mean, you know, attitude, you know, is part of hip hop, is part of what we do, and I think you got to be firm and strong and whatever.
That's right.
So you know,
don't need to be a dickhead to the crowd.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, that and then the second thing, so from there it went on to the next thing and the next thing. But back to you, one of the things that
I actually just recalled, I'm an idiot, because that One World Sports gig wasn't that was probably the first time I saw my name in a 3D mag on a flyer.
Okay.
But prior to that, the actual training grounds was St. Mary's Band Club Colours.
Wow.
On Friday night.
Colours. Damn.
Colours.
Okay. Wow. That's a throwback, man.
Yeah, man. And even around that time, I mean, shout out to Victor Lopez, bro, because he actually hooked me up with that gig.
Yeah.
And I did that for, I think, close to a year, man.
Yeah.
I say. And I remember Leno actually recruited me out of that, and even DJ Manny from those events, and like, you know, prior from the transition between Crush and the actual club scene, he took me to Melbourne. So I'd done shows in Melbourne up until that point as well. Melbourne rocked, bro. Like I always said Melbourne had the crowd, Sydney had the DJs, the entertainment side of things.
Yeah.
No disrespect to the Melbourne boys, but I'm talking like back in the day. You know what I mean? But Colours was actually like an experience and a half, man. Like, that was like 1,000 people every week, 80% Islanders.
Tell me about
Majority of the brawls were started not by the guys, but by the girls.
Yeah.
And
in the bathrooms.
I mean, I treated that. It was kind of funny, bro. Like, I used to go there by myself, and I didn't drive or anything back then, so I used to catch a train out. From Ashfield to St. Mary's and walk, and No, it was actually funny, man, because I got this trick where, not this trick, but this little life lesson where, you know, if you step into a new gig and you don't know anyone, go up to the biggest, ugliest dude and
Shout him
make
out.
friends with him. Yeah, make friends with him. And once you're secured on that side of things, then everybody starts coming and hanging out.
I remember. I think we went to Colours twice.
Yeah.
I was
wow.
dragged there when I came back to Australia in '98. All my crew were just running a fucking muck. I mean, I'm talking about, man, they were robbing fucking everything. and I was a pigeon. I was like nothing in money. I was like, you know, whatever. And essentially, all I did in 1997 after I finished high school was just smoke weed the whole year
Really?
in Uruguay with my family, just like chilling. And I came back and I actually felt the pace had changed, and all these boys, all my boys were like running in the cross and dealing and fucking doing over things. And anyway, and we went out to Colours, and I got so fucking drunk that I had this like real fat chick in front of me talking shit to me.
Yeah.
And I just all I remember, she had these like really big tits, you know, and she had them like super pushed up. You know, they're doing their best, you know.
Yeah.
And for 1 second, I'm willing to admit, for 1 second,
You thought about it?
I thought about it. But the other thing too is my field of vision was restricted to her face and her titties. That's all I could see. So in my defense, and that's probably as close as I've come to a bigger size lady in my life, and I'm proud of that. But yeah, so that's my experience in Colours. And actually, the only other thing I remember is drinking like bourbon, man. Like, because all the boys, all the Banky boys, the Fijian boys, it was bourbon and coke, bourbon and coke.
That's always been my choice.
That's still your thing.
Still
We just
my
had
choice.
some,
Jack and Coke.
yeah, just to kick just to relax ourselves into the show.
One, actually.
Yeah, that's the go-to drink. Yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
Shout out to Richie Pereira because he hooked me up with the bottle of
True.
bottle of Jack today. But all right, man. So the cool thing I like about this is it brings up, I think, a very important point.
Yeah.
About getting started in the game, because later on as promoters now we get approached by lots of people, right?
Yeah.
And they send us mixtapes and they
Or
talk.
give me a track, or give me a go, and
Yeah. And really, that's not the way to go, is it?
No.
You got to be there. You got to show up. You got to
Respectful.
press the
honourable.
flesh, as they say. You know, dress nice. You know, present yourself well, and all of that. Like almost like you got to be there. You know, none of this like by social media. Hey man, check out my mixtape.
I've got
hey,
a million
man.
likes and I've got a million followers and XYZ and you know, you put me on, I deserve to be on. Like, I think that's a big difference between the generations in a sense.
Yeah, definitely.
I think our generation growing up, I'm not saying it was better or anything like that, but I think our generation growing up, whether it was the music or the influence that was there, I think there was a lot more respectable dudes or credible character built dudes, you know what I mean? That had personalities. Yeah. And I mean, it's not like DJing, MCing is a craft all on its own.
Definitely.
I think it's a dying craft in that sense.
Yeah.
Because I remember back then on the come up was, man, you had dudes. See, I remember reading this book by Robert Greene, the 38 Laws of I forget the title.
Paulie can look it up for us.
Yeah, look, 33 Strategies of War. Right?
Oof.
And one of the strategies he said was, if you can't find someone in your field that you can admire or look up to, look at the guys that are doing things that you don't like and do the opposite. You know what I mean? So I think in that sense, on the come up, there was like, you know, MCs were dime a dozen in that sense. Yeah. There's still, you know, a handful of dudes that were credible, reputable, and still around. You know what I mean? But I looked at guys, so I remember Crush, probably one of the biggest things for me to want to take the mic was, I remember the MC was giving out CDs. And I remember I went up and I had, like, we were in spitting distance basically, and I reached out my hand to grab it, and he's like, fuck off.
Oh, wow.
snatch it from me. And I'm like, all right, cool. And
I remember that.
Always tunnel
What
vision
not
was
to
always,
do.
yeah, it was always
What not
tunnel
to
vision
do.
on the girls and always focused on the girls.
Of course,
and,
man.
You know, trying to
Ego,
pick
me.
up.
Yeah.
So I mean, for one of the main points or mottos that I put up was like, nah, man, I'm going to be the fellas MC.
100%.
You know what I mean? The ladies are
Yeah.
already having fun. They've already got their drinks. They've already got their free entry.
Yeah.
Already got the DJ playing all their songs and that. The fellas were always the ones that were left out. So my whole on the come up was always about, you know, all right, I'm going to represent the fellas. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think definitely that's the you know, one of the key features again about, particularly about MCs is more for the people. You know, like the DJs as well, they've got to be in tune to what people are responding to and all of that. And I also I know song requests is a bit of a thorn in the side of DJs, like even on social
even
media.
Even more so now, though. Like, not so much back then.
Yeah, I mean, I've said to the boys, I totally get it. You don't sort of want to have people kind of messing with your set or asking you for, because they get some crazy fucking silly requests, you know, which is totally like, you know, out of whack or whatever. But on the other hand, the DJ and the MC, they're there for the people,
100%.
First and foremost.
Yeah.
So
I always used to say I'm a glorified karaoke singer, and in simple terms, glorified karaoke singer, and DJ's a glorified jukebox.
Yeah, I mean,
putting it lamely.
Like, no, I get you, man. I get you. As all right, guys. So if you saw a little cut in the shot there, just had to get a little thing sorted. But anyway, I don't want to get off the topic, man, because I think we're on to something important for all those kind of like aspiring DJs and MCs and whatever. The song request thing and the give me a shout out thing and all of that. I mean,
I'm fine with the shout out thing. Like, I think that's,
me too, 100%, man. If I get 25 one night, I'm happy. If I get 55 the next night, I'm even happier. Why? Because your job is to rock the crowd. Your job is to read the crowd. Your job is to provide a service to that crowd. So if that crowd is telling you, hey man, I'm here for a birthday, we want to hear rack, it's almost like the DJ's job is to
improvise.
Not only to improvise, but it's his job to rock the crowd, right? So if the crowd's telling you this is what we want to rock to, you seriously want to consider what it is that they're requesting for you to play.
That's right.
Having said that, I totally respect the DJs who kind of go like, fucking song request, you know, because, but don't overdo it either, boys, because I think they kind of get a kick out of dissing people that song request. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah.
But we've had a few shocking ones at the club, though, like...
No.
The one that Sebi SMS about.
It's like, just use your discretion in what's going to work and what's not. And there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, shout out, and then the DJ will play your song a little bit like throughout the course of the night. Blah, blah, blah.
Or,
and by that point,
another thing we've done a lot over the years is someone requests like a real silly song by, say, Drake. And okay, I'm not going to play that one because it's too slow or too dark or whatever, but I'll play you another Drake track. Yeah. That's more suited.
But I tell you, the era that I loved was that point before R&B and hip hop was ever on the radio. It wasn't mainstream.
Yeah.
I mean, for me personally, and I know the crew that I hung with, we used to go to the clubs to hear the DJ play tracks that you'd never heard of before.
Yeah.
And I mean, again, generation showing our age here and probably the generational gap.
Yeah.
Slight gap. A lot of the crowd nowadays are experts because, you know, you got things like Spotify, YouTube, all these avenues and things to hear stuff that, you know, you may not necessarily hear on radio, which I kind of feel radio failed on. But growing up, like, you know, you only got your song track list by hearing it at the club. You know? Yeah. I remember one of the gigs I did, especially with DJs like Samurai, for example. Yeah. Man, dude, like, he used to kill it. He used to sit there. You didn't have Shazam back then either, so so you're sitting there and you're like wanting to steal it. But Sam was one of those dudes where he left his things blank. You know what I mean?
Well, DJs, back in the day before the internet sort of digital revolution, DJs were the gods because they spent all that money
That's exactly right.
on white labels and all the latest things that will come out from the States. And really the only way to hear that shit was number one, to go to the club and hear them play.
That's right.
Or number two, to get their mixtapes.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And that's why we were lucky to see that generation of, you know, let's call them whatever you want to call it, DJ, pioneering, whatever, where, and that's why I think DJs over the years have lost so much sway, because nowadays, you know, you can just punch it in, download it, bang, you've got it.
That's right.
And there's not much exclusivity where there used to be, you know, again, guys that will go to Anthem Records in the city and spend $1,000 a week.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, on white labels, on remixes, on the latest thing that will come in fresh off the, you know, off the boat from the States. You know, and the other thing too is you wouldn't hear that shit on the radio anywhere. Sometimes for 6 months, hermano. I remember.
If ever.
I remember, man. I was in LA airport. I would have been about maybe 14 or something.
Yeah, wow.
And we had a long layover with my sister, no parents, right? So I shoplifted, right? The Crazy Sexy Cool TLC album on tape, cassette tape. And I also shoplifted, I went back a second time because it was like, we had hours. I went back a second time and shoplifted the Brandy I Wanna Be Down album. I can't remember what it was called. And I came back to Australia and I was playing that shit and no one had fucking heard. Everyone was like, wow. Like all the boys were like, what the fuck? What is mad? And I'm telling you, man, I think it didn't come on the radio for at least 6 months. At least, maybe 3. But to me, it felt like 6 months. Time was a lot slower in those days. But yeah, I guess so. Just you know, just making that point about how things have changed now, where you know everything's in sync
so
now.
Quick.
As some people have said, some authors have said, the world's flat nowadays. Something's happening over here, everyone can see it. You know, but very different times, no doubt. And I guess I'd like to take the opportunity to shout out everyone that's around in those days. So many people to mention, but. All the Club Joint All-Stars boys, shout out to all of them, all the Nino Browns of the world, and DJ so many people also.
DJ Sifu.
Oh, Sifu, man,
Manny.
Wow, yeah,
Pacheco.
Samurai was the man, and George, man, again, G Wizard, still pioneering his way around the world nowadays, which is awesome to see. I think Sydney needs to be a little bit more supportive of each other and stop sort of. Not hating, but there's a lot of that too. But just more supportive, man. Let's just say, we've got a tendency to not celebrate our own too much. That's right. You know, that's right. And in Spanish, at least, we say, "No one is a prophet in their own land." Is that comes from the good book, right?
Yeah, the Bible too.
Okay, cool. You know more about that than I do, but we'll get on that a little bit later. But tell me something, man. So, so one part in particular. I'm kind of interested about because I was locked up from 03.
Actually, can I jump in and tell that story about you, man? No, I remember, like, for us, again, like, I used to hang out with the Outfit crew, which is like Lee Monroe.
Yeah, I remember them boys.
Big Kane.
Kane. That little Asian girl, Kimmy.
Yeah, Kimmy.
Yeah.
What was Kane's name, stage name?
Baby Kane.
Baby Kane, yeah, it was.
And then he changed it to Hurricane.
Hurricane, yeah. No, so
he was quality, man.
Bro, he was dope, man. Chicago's finest.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, really good, like, influence is dope. And our little plight on Thursdays was to go drinking up Shark Hotel, $3 drinks. Never find that anywhere now.
No.
And get towed up there, then go down to Gas Nightclub, get our stamps, then head over to Good Bar. And Good Bar on Thursdays.
Forward.
Yeah, step forward.
Yeah.
Man, that to me was probably like the grooming section for all MCs, DJs. If you were a DJ, MC, B-boy, it was all the elements of hip hop.
Oh, yes.
Elements of hip hop.
100%, bro.
Everybody used to gather there on Thursdays.
Yeah, man. Cool Hand Luke.
Oh, bro, he's
Shouts to Cool Hand Luke, man.
He was the king. I still got his mixtape somewhere.
Shout to Trent, man.
Yes.
Trent used to put that on, man.
Right.
Slingshot, man. He's still doing things, man. I chatted to him real quick when I was in Bali at the start of the year before this COVID bullshit. And he's still moving around, man. Respect to Trent, man. Much respect, 100%. Much love. Yeah.
But like to me, that was probably the melting pot or the starting point for a lot of DJs in the scene.
Myself included as an MC.
Yeah, and I remember just sitting there waiting while, you're at the bar, and the whole anticipation for every MC at that point was to wait for that little light to turn on.
That's right.
And that meant it was open mic. You know what I mean? And
Time to tear it up.
Preparing my verses to get up there and spit and stuff like that. So that's how we formulated.
Yeah.
And going from there. So anyways, I remember hanging out there in the downstairs room, and I met Dwight. Right?
Choco.
Yeah, and he was like, and Casper, Shay, Lee's cousin, he was like, oh man, you got to meet this dude. And Dwight goes, what do you do? I go, MC. I'm coming out. I haven't officially. And he's like, brother, you got to meet the best MC in Sydney, man. Like MC Rafa. Yeah. And I mean, I heard the name before, but I actually hadn't met anyone of that point. But man, he talked it like, bro, to me, he's the number one MC in Australia.
Yeah, unbiased opinion from a brother.
No, but he had his valid reasons, right?
Yeah.
So the valid reasons are he's got a lot of charisma and like a lot of personality. And I was like, all right,
charisma.
Cool. And then the funniest is obviously there was, MCs at that point was always, again, craft form on its own. It's not like DJing where, you've got these set
that's right.
checklists, you know what I mean?
That's right.
Like, can you mix well? Can you read the crowd well? The MCs was like, you had personalities, and that's always what, shone through. So in my head, I was like, I'm going to meet this bloke and size him up a bit. You know what I'm saying? And I remember I came to, what was the spot in the casino?
Cave,
yeah. What was the Friday nights called though?
I can't remember, mi hermano.
Yeah.
But that was I used to that was my residency on Fridays.
I remember I came there and I brought a girl. I was on a date, and I remember hearing you, like the music stopped, and K-Note, I think, was DJing.
Kwame, shout outs to Kwame, man. DJ K-Note, my man. Yeah.
And I remember the music stopped, and I'm like, man, this is like obviously 3 seconds. Looking at it from MCing eyes, it's like, shit, that 3 seconds, you gotta, it seems like an eternity.
Yeah, that's right.
And old mate Rafa steps on stage and was like, "What's up, ladies and gentlemen?" And the crowd's just going bananas. I'm like, this guy's milking the moment. The time. And he was like, oh, you know what? And bro, like everything Dwight said was 100% right. And I was like, okay, shit, like this dude's actually got it. Like I'd be panicking in those gaps, but you knew exactly like the pinpoints and what to say and how to do it, and got the whole crowd vibing. I was like, all right, cool. I can't fuck with this bloke just yet.
Well, the interesting thing about all of that, yourself, myself, everybody. I mean, besides watching someone here and there, and it's very rare, let's face it, being, down under and far away from the motherland of hip hop and everything. That's but no one was taught anything really, right? No, everything was like,
bro, we didn't even have like internet at that point to gather experience and advice or observe peeps and shit.
No real sort of mentors to speak of, or I mean, I'm speaking about my own journey and a few of the people that I've knocked around with. Yeah. So yes, it was very, very much watch and learn. But step forward, man. Thursday night.
Actually, shout out to Losty as well, man.
Losty,
Losty.
Man. Yeah, he's still moving and grooving, man. Yeah. See, I didn't really cross paths with Losty too much. I think he came on a little bit later when I was away. But I've got some funny stories about Step Forward, man.
I want to hear.
Because I tell you why, because those were the crazy fucking times. Yeah. For me and mine, right? So I remember what I can remember, because there was a lot of ecstasy pills, a lot of cocaine in those days.
I had my first line there.
For sure.
Fresh 19, 18-year-old.
There you go.
I know, 20-year-old, I'd say.
Yeah. All them
good
things,
Christian
right?
boy, hadn't done any drugs, couldn't afford alcohol.
Okay. Well, there you go, And I remember, man, I was knocking around back in them days with a lot of Mountain County boys, and again with the same Banky boys and all those guys that I was speaking of. And we used to show up to Step Forward, like 30 of us.
Yeah, wow.
And I remember this night clearly because Samuel L. Jackson was there.
Oh, wow.
Right? Okay. He was super cool. He had 2 black chicks with him.
You love that, eh?
No, but yeah, not even that, because it was like, anyway, but he was hanging. I remember he had a long trench coat on and he was just chilling. Everyone's shouting him out and buying him drinks and whatever. We bought him like, I don't know how many fucking rounds. Yeah. The guy was surrounded by drinks. Yeah. And we took over the whole back bar section. Remember how it was like they got that New York style bar in the middle. And let's say the DJ was on the other side in that back corner. We were opposite at the back. And we took over the whole fucking back section. And I was with the monsters, man, like fucking Samoan boys, Tongan boys. It was like, it looked like, Samoan and Tongan rugby union team, whatever.
Mad Monday.
Everyone was macked out, and all the boys used to knock off from their runs and come and go crazy.
Yeah, wow.
And by then we'd already started like freestyling with my cousin Popstar. Shout out to him, Pavel, whom we started Y La Familia with. We'd already started freestyling in people's ears at clubs, and we used to like just not performing but doing that, whatever, right? So we showed up that night, and everyone's like, grab the mic, and we're like, nah, because we're still a little bit, you know. But I remember the fucking pills started kicking in, man. We started going crazy. And the boys are like, fuck these cunts, you get on the fucking mic, fuck these cunts. And I was like, no. And I remember clearly the light came on, and they started deepity jabbity deepy dabbity jabbity deepy dabbity. And Ma was like, yo, my boy Ma Asua, he said to me, he used to mimic The Rock. He used to wear the same glasses and everything. So, fuck this, loco. He hadn't slept for 3 days. Fuck this, loco, you coming with me now, let's fucking go. Rah, rah. And he charges through the fucking crowd. He's pushing everyone out of the way. Yeah. The place was rammed. And he gets in the circle. Remember there used to be like a little circle, and all the MCs are waiting for the mic. Yeah. And they're all sort of jabbity, my third eye vision, my wisdom, my speech with my rah, rah, rah. And I remember, and I was peaking. I was fucking high as a fucking kite. And there was this one kid, I can't remember his face, but he was like short and small. And he's like, jabbity. And fucking Mawa just got sick of waiting. So he stands in the middle of the circle in front of him, and he goes, give me the fucking mic. He had that voice like he hadn't slept for 3 days, you know. Give me the fucking mic. And the kid just, jibbity, give me the fucking mic. And he gives him the mic. And he goes, here, loco, here. And I grabbed the mic, and I'm fucking peeking. So I said, yeah, man. I said, because we had some Koori boys in the crew as well, some Redfern boys. A couple of them Urchers and that. Naughty got out. Apollo, that was his thing. And I grabbed the mic, and I said, man, shout out to the real niggas in Australia. This is for the real niggas in Australia, you know? And everyone just went, who's this white motherfucker? I was like, yeah, man, this is for the real niggas, the real niggas of Australia, because we're in Australia, man. The real niggas of Australia are the Polynesians and the Kooris. Yeah, what? And the islanders that were there and the Kooris that were there went fucking nuts. And everyone was like, yeah, you know, just from that kind of, it was a bit delayed reaction, but everyone jumped up and all the boys ran to the fucking thing, and I rapped some shit. I was fucking whack, but after that, you know, you can say whatever you want.
I realized that trick was to get the crowd going first on your side, and anything you spat after that was just, they weren't paying attention.
Put it this way, 30 of the baddest motherfuckers in that venue, which wasn't that big, were all my boys anyway. So it was home ground advantage. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. So I did my thing. It was some fucking whatever. And I remember I put the mic down, and they turned the light off, and they kept playing. And then everyone was like, yeah. But then there was a few like African American people there. And
you can't say that.
No. On my way back to the bar, I remember a few people because a few people going, yeah. And I got a couple of slaps on the head. And a couple of our boys kind of went in to squash it and whatever. But I didn't see any of that because I was like, walking towards the back and drinks and boom and Samuel L. and whatever. And then a little while later, I'm standing there, and this black chick comes up to me. And she was actually kind of big. And she comes up to me and she goes, hey, yo. Like she looked African American. She looked African, but she was actually African American. She looked at me. She goes, "Hey, yo, man, hey, homie, what the fuck was that shit you were saying before, man? You can't say fucking niggas. That's that's disrespectful. This and that." But she was all up in my face. And actually, security had to come and pull her off. Yeah. And I just remember thinking, oof, she's got a point, like, right? So then, fast forward, they opened up the mic again the second time. And I grabbed the microphone, and I remember, like, just by fluke, Luke had dropped like a more mellowy kind of track or whatever. So I asked for the mic this time, and I actually said, hey man, I want to drop a verse. This is for my beautiful black sister. over there in the corner, man. Apologize for what I said before. You know, I love you, Black Queen. Like something I was fucking ecstasy it up to the max. I was loving everybody, right? Anyway, and it ended up being cool. But anyway, that's probably my biggest sort of memory. Not that anyone else would probably remember it. I know my boys do, but Step Forward, man. That's I think a few people can throw back to that
100%.
spot and that time when it was a totally different landscape. Let's face it, hip hop was more hip hop.
You know, like what sort of saddens me, I guess, for lack of better terms, like compared to, you know, concerts and going to concerts and things like that, or get-togethers nowadays, is that whole social interaction's not there anymore. Like I know,
less.
Yeah, like I remember going to concerts when I was younger. And the whole thing was like, because it was community based and you used to go there. And
I think you've hit the nail on the head.
You really wanted to. You really wanted to see everyone, and you had time for everyone that said hi to you and this, that. You know, you got a kick out of it. They got a kick out of it. But there was also that whole networking, connection.
And there was a lot of competitiveness as well.
Yeah,
like healthy,
that's right.
healthy.
100%.
It was just you wanted to be, you know.
Yeah.
But I think also a lot has to do with the fact that it was the golden era. It was, you know, the late 90s, and
early 2000s, and
all the way up to. But I mean, beginning
the comparison I was trying to make was like, say you go to a concert now, and it's like people are like, I know that guy, but I don't want to. Come on.
Yeah, there's
like,
a bit more of that, man. Yeah, it was a scene. You know, people say community. I don't remember it being a community per se. I remember it being a scene. It was a scene.
Yeah, that's a better word.
Yeah, and there was those guys over there, my guys, and you had your allies, and you had your like people that you didn't really know. So you were a bit like, because they did it to you, so you were a bit back. There was a bit of attitude, but it was what it was, right? But yeah, so back to your timeline, let's say. So you've done all the let's call them the warm up stuff and whatever. Residencies. When did they begin?
Okay, so I think first residency I got was at Cave on Fridays. And unfortunately,
I know this story.
Unfortunately, of course. I think I told you this story like a million times. But just for the people listening, man, like, so after hearing you that time, I think I came back a couple of months later, and I was looking forward to hearing you again, because, you know, whether or not I steal some of your lines, or,
of course,
or study it, you know.
I was a little bit more established,
100%, a little more. I remember like, I heard rumors about your birthday at Daintree, like your 21st, was it?
Yeah. We
2,000 people rock up.
Like It was probably at the height of it all, you know,
And
La Familia,
that's right,
Club Joint, all that shit,
And I remember, like, man, I guess the heartbreaking thing, or the unfortunate thing, was rocking up that night and bumping into your cousin Seba, and he was emceeing. I was like, man, what happened to Rafa? He goes, oh, bro, he got that's when you got pinched on the Thursday. I think it was. And I remember, like,
2003.
Yeah, that was a kick in the guts in that sense, because I mean, for obvious reasons and whatnot. And I remember pulling Seba to the bar and having a full chat about that, and, you know, talking about your bail and all that sort of stuff, and you know, what could be done and this, that, and the other. Anyways, the course of the night goes on, and he comes up to me going, hey, bro, can you hold the mic? I want to bang this chick.
Oh, there you go.
And I ended up emceeing for a good half an hour. I don't know how long he disappeared, but I think it was, who was running the night back then? Was it Short?
It was in-house, man.
It was in-house.
It was in-house. They had a mad crew at Cave, man.
Yeah. But it was, remember DJ Shorty?
He was around. He was part of like the DJ / whatever crew, but it was run in-house. But they had,
because he introduced me to a dude, and he goes, "Hey man, we've lost our MC," and I was like, "Yeah, I heard." He goes, "Bro, would you like the spot?" So I ended up getting your gig. By default, I felt in my heart.
Isn't that funny, man?
Bro, so I remember, I think I was there for a year or so, every Friday. And then I think we also did Sundays, like every now and then.
Yeah, the long weekends and stuff, I'm sure.
No, I think, what was it called?
Mothership.
That's right.
Lani.
Lani.
Yeah.
And I remember that was the time I'd linked up with MC Jazz. Shout out to MC Jazz, MC
Jazz,
Sesh,
man. I was chatting with him the other day.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, with Jazz, just by
too,
chance. Yeah. Shout out to Jazz, man. One of the good guys.
Yeah, and I mean, Sesh
Abe, not so much one of the good guys.
One of the guys I remember watching on Gas, and like I remember.
Bro, please.
You know how I said to you about the polar opposites? Like, I don't want to be like that dude.
I'll tell you a story about Abe. Fuck, I've got some stories.
Well, no. So I remember Gas, like he there's some ticket giveaways, and I mean, obviously, you know, Abe used to just push the line, and I'm like, I'm not that adventurous yet. And I remember he bro, like, oh, yo, can we get an ugly bitch and a hot chick up on stage and this, that? And then he goes, if you want these tickets, you got to make out. And the girls just did it. And I'm like, okay, that's too far perversion for me.
But
like,
one of the pioneers,
100%.
Extremely talented,
100%,
charisma,
100%.
everything.
Bro, he had an attitude of, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
That was it.
The most obnoxious motherfucker in the scene by far.
That's right.
Shout out, I love you, Abe, man. I love you, brother.
Same
you know
here,
you're my
bro.
brother, bro. I think he's coming through on Wednesday. He's coming through the farm to.
Yeah, shit.
And he might be doing some shit with us as well. So
Cool,
I love Abe,
cool.
man. Abe's a brother, man.
Bro.
Yeah.
But you see what I'm saying about the relevancy? Like there was not saying that dudes fell off or disappeared. Obviously, you know, people move on to other things and whatnot. But
of course.
Bro, there's only a handful of us left that.
Yeah, definitely.
And I'm still waiting for that young generation to come up that want to sit under MCing and learn the art form of MCing at least.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah,
Club
it's a good
MCing,
call,
let's
that
say.
one. Yeah.
You know?
I think also there's a few people around that we're not sort of fully aware of. But none of them, I would definitely say, like stamping their mark.
100%.
Yeah.
But again, it's like, well, I mean, for us on the come up, that lack of guidance or mentorship, let's say. But bro, we're still around. Like, come and sit down, come and hang out. Like, let's have a chat. Because bro, I'm happy to share.
I'm an open book too, man. 100%.
Yeah.
Even fast forward to like Prish and all those guys.
Yes, that's right. 100%. 100%.
You know, I was always happy to
MC
try and
Rock and
partake
Mike.
with. Yeah. But so the first residency is at Cave.
It was Cave. Actually, no. Yes, actually it was. And then I got Colours. My bad.
Okay, cool.
Cave and then Colours.
Okay, cool.
I can't remember the order off the top of my head.
Cool.
Man. I need to go back and find
it's blurry. Yeah, don't worry, man. I feel you on that one. Sometimes people tell me shit of that era, and I'm like, really? Did that happen? Okay, it's like,
bro, like
never happened.
Yeah, even for me, I'm tossing up whether or not this is my 20th year as an MC or next year's my 20th anniversary as an MC.
Okay.
So I mean, I don't know, COVID on and shit. Let's say next year is, and I mean, I wouldn't mind. I think we should throw a show, like get together, do some concert type shit.
Yeah. Well,
pull the plugs.
I've got a feeling there's a lot more things happening soon, man. Hopefully, more on the creative side and all that.
Yeah.
But if there's one thing, and I was trying to allude to this before, but one thing that I definitely missed out on, and I heard a lot about, is the whole sort of Golden Mile, King's Cross. Every weekend NYE type thing. I missed out on all of that. I was away 03 to 10, and I think that all happened kind of right in the middle, and it all tied in. I remember in jail watching Underbelly, the Golden Mile, and I actually remember.
You were still there when that came out?
Yeah, of course, man. Yeah. I actually remember. I've been inside for a little while, and I got moved somewhere, and I'd gone from like the Super Maxo type, not Super Max, but like Lithgow, where it's more like it's a dead end, let's say. To I think I was in Bathurst, and I run into some of the Banky boys and more people that have kind of just come in, you know,
breezing through.
Yeah, or just on their way somewhere, but had just come in, and they're like, oh man, the cross, and I remember saying, what, King's Cross, because to me the cross was a junkie's alley. I used to go drop off at the cross, and the boys were dealing in the cross, and I used to supply some people there or whatever. And that's to me that's what the cross ever was. But then now it become this this big nightlife thing. So tell me about that, because I'm sure. So how did it begin for you? Talk to me about maybe some of the first or the few spots that you remember. I know that you lined up with Boy Meets Girl, the Musa brothers.
So prior to that, I was with Exclusive Productions, Gary Ewan. Shout out to Gary.
Shouts to Gary.
Yeah, so I think it was my transition was between.
Move this up a little bit, please, brother.
My
just
transition between the R&B Super Club days. So I think that was a good 2-3 years of my life, or a year or 2 years of my life, and
with Leno and them.
Yeah, with Leno and them, and then I transitioned over to being polite, transitioned over to Gary Ewan. So he was on the come up as well with Exclusive Productions, had some of the biggest Asian nights that ran for good 2-3 years off the top of my head. And I was residence there on Fridays, and a couple of his events at Space on Saturdays. Now the whole thing with the cross started coming, because the cross was always predominantly house, and
that's right.
I forget the genres and everything else as well. So the Boy Meets Girl boys, Tony and Dave Musa. I mean, actually, I said that out of order. It's Dave and Tony Musa. Is
Dave more important?
Dave's older, so I got to give you respect to the hierarchy and the eldership.
Don't get angry, Tony. You can
No, but
get him
everyone-
later at Little Miss Collins and piss in his food, man. You got my permission. Huh? Ungrateful motherfucker.
No, but you see, even at that point, they were both DJs. So me and Tony linked up and did our own thing, like for a little while. As you know,
See, I had no idea. I know Rocks, Jay Rocks,
Yeah,
you know, the
little
younger
brother.
brother, but no idea that even those boys. I actually never heard that they even
Well,
DJ. but-
Tony was DJ Lyrics, and Dave was
Okay.
DJ Fortune. We always bag him about that name.
yeah,
right?
amazing. It sounds like a fucking magician or something.
Yeah.
What's he gonna do, pull a pigeon out of his fucking handkerchief? Yeah.
I guess it was like for the tune, like for tune.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so
yeah.
Okay. You remember all this, like, bro, it was funny because all the, like, lack of better terms, like the European or the WOG DJs always used to have these weird names in that sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I've always found the WOGs keep it simple and they're not very creative. It's like,
No.
DJ Rafa C.
Yeah, that's
You
right.
get what I'm
Or
saying?
Daniel
Or
T.
Daniel T.
B.
Yeah, yeah,
Danny B.
that's all the
Actually, shout out
WOGs.
to Danny B.
That's all the WOGs. Yeah. Anyway, leave the WOGs alone.
So so they had just they started doing promo stuff, and I mean, I guess we should get them on the show to discuss. their
Ah,
whole-
man, I already told you.
Yeah,
I
their
told
whole
Tony
journey.
as well, man. I love those boys.
So,
A
look,
lot of respect.
I'll leave that to them to discuss the finer
Yeah.
points and whatnot.
Yeah, you wash
So-
your hands with that. Yeah, no worries.
No, I don't want to ruin
He's
the
backed
story.
out of it, he's going,
No, because they man, like, uttermost respect to them, because not only did they make a name for themselves with, you know, the street level promotions and
Yeah.
things like that, and the way that they started, you know, they basically, I don't want to say they revolutionized the scene or anything major like that, and talking
they upped the tempo.
but man, they were natural born hustlers in that
Yeah,
sense.
yeah,
you know
yeah.
what I mean?
A lot of the Lebo boys are, man.
I mean, again, no social media, no thingo. So for them to do the numbers that they did and pack out clubs the way that
Yeah.
they did was all hand-to-hand promo, was all networking to
Yeah.
its finest point, without the, you know, the convenience of Facebook and you know,
Ah,
MySpace
man,
is probably
everything was about that back in those days.
100%. And I think in comparison to the longevity of what they did, like, there was no one else in that sense.
Yeah.
Who had run so many events per weekend,
Yeah.
and a lot of them were undercover because they didn't want to obviously conflict with other venues and, you know, get on the
Because
wrong
they were
side of
jumping-
owners.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
right. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I think at one point they had 6 events going on every weekend.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
At some point.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but
Yeah.
So for me, stepping into the cross was when the boys took over Fridays at Trademark.
Okay.
It was called Eve Fridays.
Oh yeah, I remember
right?
seeing the artwork and stuff.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you see, at that point, it was very skeptical or sketchy about, because they were doing Good Bar. They did Good Bar as well. I think
For
Fridays and
R&B.
Saturdays. Yes. No, well, they did R&B in the top room and house and whatever. But, mate, dare I say, it was around that time that, like, say, 96.1 started
Yep.
playing R&B and all
Yep.
of that. And, you know, so it was that whole transition where the crowds, or Sydney masses, in a sense, were moving from house to wanting R&B. And a lot of these venues were under the pretense that, you know, R&B caused so much trouble.
Yeah,
with
yeah,
some
yeah.
Gangsters
Yep.
and this, that, and the other.
That's right.
But I think when they started running R&B events in the Cross, they realized that their bar takings were,
Higher.
so, you know,
Less pills, more
100%.
alcohol.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. So, man, those were epic times in that sense. So I started doing Eve Fridays.
So what year would you say that is?
Man, 2000. Wow, probably 7, 8.
Wow. So that's
I
like
think-
at the fucking height, right?
I
Because
think.
that's when it was.
Look, don't hold me to it. Like, again, memory.
No, that's fine, man. But
Yeah.
definitely was at the peak of what you would call King's Cross nightlife.
Yeah.
Around that time.
Well, see, you see, others may argue and say that the peak of King's Cross nightclub was, you know, 2005 era.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But from what you're saying as well, like, that could be.
Don't quote me, man, because I was away.
But that could be an error in that sense, because I thought the Cross was around for a lot longer, but not so many venues. Let's say,
Yeah.
you know, like, I know EP1 was huge.
I mean,
but-
there might have been
But
one
the
or two, and then the
swankies,
strip
yeah.
joints and all that. But I'm talking
yeah.
about when it went like full blown commercial,
yeah,
and
yeah.
like you had to fucking drive all the way down William Street. It was packed, and it was like
parking.
literally like New Year's Eve.
That every
weekend,
every
yeah,
weekend, every
yeah,
weekend. Well, I mean, what
yeah.
they say, there was 10 to 20,000 people
Yeah.
turning up to the Cross every
So
weekend.
okay, so tell me something. So you're doing Fridays at Trademark
Yep.
with the boys.
And then I picked up Thursdays at Sapphire with Richie.
Thursdays at Sapphire.
Thursdays at Sapphire.
Yep.
And then the
Shouts to
same-
Richie. Shouts to
100%.
Eob.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. And then I ended up picking Saturdays up at the bank, and that was
Bang.
because of Margaret. So Margaret was John's cousin or cousin
John Abraham?
John Abraham,
Sure.
Johnny boy. And Margaret was one of those ladies that, mate, she was the accountant or she was like the main. You didn't fuck around with Margaret, basically.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She was.
I think I crossed paths with her at Trademark.
Yes,
I
you would
think
have.
briefly,
You would have.
Yeah.
And
She was a numbers lady.
That's right. She was a numbers lady.
She was
hands
cool
down.
though. She
Yeah,
was like,
100%.
yeah.
So when I was doing the Asian nights at Magic City, I call it Asian night, but it was R&B night, Magic City with Gary and that. That's where I met her. So when we moved over when that finished up, Magic City moved from UN, DCMs.
Yep.
Because it was DCMs on Saturdays
Yep.
and the Chocolate City on Fridays.
Mhm.
That moved over to Havana, which is further up the road. It ended up being my nightclubs before it closed down.
Mm-hmm.
I think they went through transitions as well. So from Havana, she ended up holding the accounts there, and I think we got closer, and she ended up moving to the Cross when that shut down as well. So I ended up at the bank through someone else and was hosting Saturdays there. And then she made the connection and fully locked me into the Cross, which was she turns around going, why don't you do the bank and do Trademark on Saturdays? Because I could also MC house, electro, and all that stuff as well. You know, the whole mashing.
Yeah.
So I ended up.
You can do everything, bro.
So my whole weekend was locked up in the Cross was from Thursdays to even Sundays sometimes as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Crazy times.
Man, crazy. And even bless her for the
hookup.
money, the hookup and that, because.
That's how it works, Emmanuel. And again, we go back to the same thing. Like, you got to be in it to win it. You can't just be at home, you know. Like, you got to be out there, man. You got to be
100%.
pressing the flesh, shaking hands, meeting people, giving pounds, you know.
And always stay humble, man.
Always.
Stay humble.
Always, Emmanuel.
Yeah.
Always.
I think
Dress
that's-
nice.
yeah, that's right.
Show yourself. Present yourself.
Man, the only reason I started dressing okay, I know Paulie's laughing at me over here, but the only reason why I started dressing okay was also I worked at Glue. I was working at Glue store.
Yeah, you've heard that a lot,
I worked at Glue store for 10 years.
Yeah.
And all my pay went into, having this mentality of, okay, I need to have a different outfit every weekend.
Yeah.
Shout out to retail.
Shout out to all the retailers.
To stay
out
relevant,
there,
to stay relevant and just, adapt to the fashions and all that sort of stuff.
Images, they say image is everything, it's big.
Yeah.
It's important, man. It's your business card, it's your calling card, how you present yourself.
Yeah.
No matter what industry, but much more so in the be seen, be heard industry that we cut our teeth in.
Yeah.
So yeah, please.
So with the Cross things, man, like it was actually like an epic. Man, in all honesty, words can't actually describe the vibe and the atmosphere that was there. You had so many like cool venues that people as a patron.
Yeah,
you'd have
bounce around.
Yeah, man. Like, and it'd go till 6, 7 in the morning, and there was always options right until Sundays.
Yeah, and the strip joints in the mix.
Mate,
and everything.
You could disappear in there on a Friday and come home on Monday if you wanted to. You know what I mean? And stay out. And it was even funny watching the transition of certain crowds or certain types of crowds that would go to bed early on Saturday to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and then hit up a day club that ran till 12 midday on a Sunday. You know what I mean? These are the options that we did have in Sydney growing up, which I feel
times have changed.
100%, which I feel awful for the generation that missed out after the whole lockout period and everything else as well.
I think there's more to it, but definitely didn't hurt.
100%.
It didn't help, yeah.
But man, one thing with the Cross, and this is where it shits me with the government in a sense, was there was probably 3 or 4 things that they just needed to improve on, and it would have squashed a lot of the drama, a lot of the problems, and a lot of the situations or incidents that happened. Yeah. Which is, the key factor for me was probably public transport. Would have been a big, would have been a smart thing to organize. Yeah. For that vicinity, and I mean from a police standpoint as well, like it's shooting crabs in a bucket. You know what I mean? Channeling your forces to look after it. Like you've got a precinct here of 10 to 15,000, 20,000 people. I could be exaggerating. I'm not too sure on the full figures and stuff, but it was basically shooting crabs in a bucket. And you did not know who was who in the Cross. So if you stepped like everyone always has this image of a gangster and this, that, and the other. Yeah. But mate, realistically, it was always the small, quiet dudes that you had to watch out for. In my experience in dealing with, interacting with King's Cross crowd, it was always the little dude that was in the background that was quiet. It was the somebody that you didn't want to touch with.
I think definitely the lockout laws is something that we probably need to touch on, because that's probably an area that we're definitely experts in, that we can speak on. And for those who know, there was, I think from memory, there was 2 main incidents, let's call it, that led to the lockouts, and it was those one-punch deaths.
Yep.
And what the media failed, I guess, to really hone in on was the fact that both those incidents were not people who had even been inside a nightclub.
It happened outside of a nightclub.
It happened outside a
Early
nightclub.
in the
It
night.
was people walking around.
That's right.
From memory, one guy was off his face, and he'd left his house off his face, and he hit this guy, and bang, he fell down.
He
bang.
got rejected, from entering a bunch of clubs
Yep.
as well.
So everyone did their job.
100%.
Yep.
And I mean, even at that point, John, around that time as well, John had also, a lot of the venues had gotten together and had hired private security to
Yeah, I
patrol
remember all
the
that.
cross.
Yeah, the
You know what
squad.
I mean?
Yeah.
And it was actually a solid unit and a great interaction between venue
Yeah.
security to that group that was out there. And
Yeah.
so say there was an incident in the club, security in the venue would handle it, kick those blokes out, or kick that group out, call the
Yeah.
security on the street to come sit on them, and then police would come and they did their job. It was basically spoon-fed to them. You know what I mean?
Another thing too is around the world, the advantage, and you touched on this, around the world, the advantage of having a red light district, let's call it, or a nightlife district, is rightfully, as you said again, you can have much less police presence, much less ambulance, much less everything, because it's confined to a certain area.
Yep.
So you don't essentially need all of these patrols and all of these ambulances and all of these resources spread out all over a city or a state.
Yeah.
So if you make a concentration of these events, or of these nightclubs, of these businesses, nightlife, you actually get a lot more bang for buck as a society, as a government, as everything.
That's right.
And can it still be mismanaged? Of course, and they did. Let's face it.
Massive.
But I would confidently say that the people that make these decisions have no fucking idea what they're talking about. Why? Because none of them have ever even stepped foot inside a fucking club. Now, that doesn't automatically make you an expert in logistics and all of these things, but they don't even know what they're talking about, because ultimately they're wrestling with nightlife.
That's
and
right.
the good and the bad and the ugly. You got no fucking idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You don't even understand the people and why they're there, and when they move here and when they move there and what time they're going home, and and all of these things. And ultimately, I think the media had a massive role to play in the whole lockout thing, because it was the thing of the day. Ultimately, the Daily Telegraph just wants to sell some newspapers, just wants to sell some advertising. They don't care about the truth. They don't care about the impact it had on so many businesses, on so many levels, on so many staff and security and hospitality industry as a whole, and Sydney's international reputation as a whole.
100%.
They don't give a flying fuck. Why? Because for that month or two, they had all the headlines.
That's right.
They sold lots of advertising. And once it was all said and done, they moved on to the next thing, and that train wreck was just left as a fucking train wreck for however long it was. And by the time they brought it back, they relaxed the lockout laws.
6 years
Damage
later,
done.
5 years later.
Damage done.
That's right.
And it's all over.
Yeah.
Embarrassing, I think, historically speaking, embarrassing what they did to this city, to this state. And I think the politicians and the media are squarely to fucking blame it, because
100%.
Besides a handful of people who, rightfully so as well, wanted some change and wanted to see some action taken on why these violence and all these things happen.
Yep.
I don't think the lockouts were ever gonna.
Mate, we even said it, like the moment that they introduced ID scanners,
Yeah.
bro, the amount of people that behaved, because
Yeah.
you finally knew exactly, like,
Yeah.
see, I think with our generation as well, I still remember one interaction I had with an incident that happened in Magic City, Chocolate City, let's say. And a bloke, one of my mates had gone off, he was smashed, rocked up to the club, went up the full flight of stairs at UN, was at the top there, didn't want to pay entry, mouthed off at security. Security ended up throwing him off the top of the stairs, rolled all the way down, broke his collarbone, carpet burned down the side of his face. I saw him on Monday at TAFE, and I'm like, I'm burning. Like, here's my mate this day. He goes, nah, brother, I deserved it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You do that in the generation now, that whole venue and the security and everyone's being sued to Kingdom Come. And I'm not saying that the security were justified in doing that, but I'm just thinking mentality-wise of taking ownership of your behavior.
Yeah, individual responsibility.
100%.
Which I think is a major point that's missed in everything to do with government and regulations in this country.
That's right.
Yeah.
This, what do they call it? The nanny state. You know what I mean?
Big time.
Oh, it's not your fault. It's because of this factor.
Yeah,
this factor,
someone
this
has to
factor.
pay. There's got to be an insurance. There's got to be someone's license. There's got to be someone paying fines. There's got to be someone, and ultimately, an idiot is a fucking idiot, and you can't stop an idiot from being a fucking idiot.
That's right.
So go after the idiot.
That's right.
And it's this whole thing about, you know, you hear about the 1% and the 99%. That's probably something else, but most often it's the 1% that fuck it up for everybody else.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Now, in other countries of the world, and thankfully I've traveled a little bit and I've experienced nightlife in other places, Europe and Latin America and Asia. The people that fuck up pay.
That's right.
No one else pays.
No, that's right.
And that's how it should be here.
100%.
But we've got this attitude where, you know, we're very reactionary, and someone has to pay and someone has to be blamed.
Yeah.
You know, at an organization or at a business level or at a license level, you know. Motherfuckers, it's, you know, if one guy wants to get
Act
drunk,
like a hero.
yeah, he's a fuckwit. He's a fuckwit.
Bottom
Ban
line.
him,
Yeah.
get rid of him,
That's
fuck him off,
That's right. Throw the book at him.
right? But everyone else chill, man. We you know, that's freedom, man.
100%.
You know?
100%. And I think when ID scanners were introduced prior to the lockout coming down, like that gave a little bit more ownership to the individual to be like, okay, shit, if I stuff up here, because they were spoiled. Let's not get it twisted. You know what I mean? What saddened me with the cross was on the tail end was that it was like, instead of that exclusivity of coming into this venue and you wanted to be there and this, that, and the other, it ended up being this whole catering, an over-the-top catering to crowds in order to try and catch them early, in order to try to keep them at your bar. And patrons aren't stupid. So what they ended up, you know, where the clubs fucked up, I feel, was that they started putting out street teams to, like, you know, steal people in and this, that, and the other. And, you know,
they
like,
fucked it up for themselves.
and the crowds come in and the girls weren't dumb, like free entry here. So, you know, you had the whole mindset changed from being, okay, I really want to be in this spot, to walking up to the door and saying, so what can you give me? Free entry and a drink?
Yeah, cool. So to come back to the timeline, let's say, and this is where we kind of tie ourselves in together. I came into the tail end of the cross heyday, let's say. I remember. I still
remember our first meeting at Trademark.
Well, I think the way it started is I presented Raycon, which is at the time was a very famous reggaeton artist in the world from Colombia, and I brought him over to Australia, and I put him in Trademark for Colombian Independence Day.
Yes, that's right.
And I remember it was a Friday.
Okay, so sorry to interrupt, but just at that point, I'd graduated uni, and got my Bachelor of Business in Commerce.
How's that going?
What did I use it for? Honestly,
Another one.
That was just a bucket list, like, to make my grandmother proud.
Yeah, there you go. Well done, man. Nah,
know,
respect, but so many people finish uni and they're fucking, you know,
I
working
finished,
behind bars.
Yeah, I finished that and went to apply for a bunch of jobs, and they were telling me I didn't have enough experience, and because I wasn't in that, but not failing to realize that, dude, I was managed myself, was my marketing and all of these transferable skills. But mate, God's in control at the end of the day. And,
definitely.
You know, things worked out brilliantly, and we'll get into that. So I picked up a job at Trademark as their event liaison, let's say. And my job was to find promoters to take over.
Bring people in.
Yeah, Thursdays, Fridays, and Sundays, let's say. And that's when you and I started talking.
Yeah.
I still remember our first meet, because I said to myself from that gig, like that by default at Cave Nightclub in my head was like, mate, I got this gig, but I got this gig by default. Like when Raph gets out, I got to show him respect and tell him this thing. And I remember bumping into you at Sapphire.
I remember bumping into you too, man. And I clearly remember respect from the word go, which to me was a big thing, especially amongst MCs. You know,
100%.
You got every
territorial
right to
blokes.
Yeah, big time. Yeah.
And I still remember it got me excited to actually call you to come through. And then I remember, after the 5 events that you ran at Trademark on the long weekends, or I think it was 4 or 5, mate, I remember you smashed the bar records at that time, and they were blown away in that sense.
Yeah. They were happy. They were definitely happy.
Me look good.
So I remember you were doing your thing in there, and I think the venue was kind of like, okay, what are we doing on Fridays? Because we were rotating things, and I'd come through with a few big hits. I started something with the Brazilian boys. it kind of didn't really work because the Brazilian thing's not really a weekly thing. And I remember saying to you, okay, cool, you got your one off.
I had my one event. I just done my one event.
And the vibe was good.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, man, why don't we do it together?
Yeah.
And that was the beginning of our
100%.
partnership.
And mate, my immaturity at that point as well. Like, bro, I think it's just funny to reflect on that time of that point of time in my life, because I mean, at the end of the day, we can say lockouts, blah blah blah, killed the vibe or whatever. But for me, spiritually and everything else as well, I thank God for that time, because I was nearly off the edge of the cliff, man. Like, the line was sort of there, and and I'd pushed a lot of boundaries and things like that, and personally, of things that I said I would never do and get into. And I think I was at that pivotal point where it could have gone really off the edge or pulled back.
And I do remember working with you and noticing some of the kind of the usual symptoms of people that party a lot.
100%.
Nowhere near the sort of let's call them severe cases by any means. But tell me about that, man, because in a good and in a bad way, or I guess in a funny or in a serious way, I'm sure there's some stories like, cause, it was an every weekend thing, right?
Bro, 100%.
So like alcohol.
Yeah.
I mean, smoking cigarettes too, right?
Right, yeah, I think I was a smoker from God knows how long now. I think I actually got into it proper when I was at TAFE, you know what I mean? But smoking, it's funny because this whole COVID experience and that, I think I've done a lot more spiritual realization and, dealing with God's been good in a sense of taking me back to paths and showing me why I did things that I did, and this whole spiritual journey that I don't think would have happened if COVID didn't happen. You know what I mean? And having these last 6 months of a lot of spare time, a lot of scaling back to zero on a lot of things. So there's been a lot of like
traveling within.
Yeah, a lot of self realization in that sense. So I thank God for this time in a sense to reflect on. Let's say. So it's funny you bring that up as well, because like. Yeah, it was. I started out, not really a big drinker. Not like my grandparents. My parents never drank, never smoked. No one in my family smokes.
Yeah.
No one in my family were big drinkers or alcoholics in a sense. And here I am from the age of 18 plus. Going out from Wednesdays to Sundays and only having Mondays, Tuesdays to recover, and then doing that for God knows how many years, and then balancing between TAFE as well and all that stuff. And mate, I actually do not know how I afforded any of it as well. Yeah. And by the time I hit the cross, and a lot of the things that I said I'd never do, like drugs and pills and all that stuff, ended up just being a checklist of things I would do.
Yeah, it was like the most normal thing.
100%. And you brought up something a couple of months ago, and another footy player that I was chatting to, who is now a counsellor, he said this, and it never clicked with me, but obviously the adrenaline or the rush or the hype or the high that you get from performing in front of crowds and seeing crowds go off, and that aura that of course, that
the high.
The high. And and then throwing drugs into it as well amplified the high. And then when you
drop
100%. And it's funny, like the whole world loves to glorify, I fucked a lot of bitches, drank, got bottles popping, drugs popping, this, that, but no one ever tells you about the come down. No one tells you about the broke experience.
Yeah, man.
No one tells you about the whole, regret or guilt that comes with it, banging a lot of people, like banging a lot of girls and things like that. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I clearly remember.
And getting yourself into shitty relationships and wrong relationships.
Of course. Well, you're not centered. You're not balanced here. I remember a bit of that too, man. Being young and coming off stage and things, and feeling very deflated and but so back to what I'm trying to get.
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry, man. This is awesome. Yeah. There is no right or wrong.
It's our podcast.
It is what it is.
We can say what the fuck we want to say.
We'll be here for another 2 hours saying nothing. Paulie can talk. Anyway.
Wake up, Paulie.
My man. Hey, no. So, okay, cool. So, crazy stories?
Where do I begin, man? A lot of them are blurry.
Yeah? Did you ever go many days without sleeping?
Look, I'll keep names out of it, but my
Fuck
best.
That name names. Be a snitch.
Nah, it's cool. Like, I'll let him tell the story if we get on track here. But my best mate, like even to this day, man, it was funny because for us it wasn't about wanting to hook up with girls and this, that. Girls were always there, you know what I mean?
Yeah, they're a byproduct.
Yeah, I have to say, I have to admit that I was a serial relationship person.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of notches under my belt, if you want to say. Like I was in a there was always that, I guess that see, again, reflecting again, I realized that the emotionally emotionally unstable stability,
filling the void kind of thing.
100%.
Yeah,
And like I realized even from a young age, and this is where it's been great spending time with God, because he's like taking me back into childhood experiences, or where things sort of like triggered, or why was I, such a people pleaser, let's say, or why was I, never wanted to, step on people's feet. Because bro, if you met me back in high school point, bro, I could throw down. Like my mates got into brawls and this, that, but came to talking to girls and shit, I was shy. You know what I mean? And there was always that. It's just funny, like just reflecting on that. So I won't get into that side of things. But crazy stories in a sense was like, yeah, man, we used to go on benders. So it wasn't always about, like I met dudes that were fixated on wanting to bang girls every night. Different girls and this, that, and adding to. And I got off. Man, I got off on that tangent. It's just funny, man. Like it's like God never took his hand off me throughout that whole period. And I got off on that tangent real quick when, believe it or not, I was in Dubbo. I started doing events
stomping ground.
Yeah, I used to do events out in Dubbo.
DK is really big in Dubbo, by the way. I can
shout out to all the Dubbodians out there. And something happened with a girl and this, that, and the other, and I'd just come out of a relationship, and it was sort of like whatever. And then the next day, like I thought it was, in a sense, I realized like trying to do that was it beneficial to myself, or was I trying to look like a sick cunt in front of the boys? And I remember the boys bagging the shit out of me, and I was like I remember having this sort of like this panic attack, because like this chick wasn't of real repute. And
shout out to the Dubbo girl.
And man, like, and I was like, okay, cool. So did I do that for my own benefit, or was I doing that to look cool? Or,
there's a lot of that, man.
Yeah,
of course. So, it's part of growing up.
Yeah. So back to the story. I kind of deviated there. So for us, it was always about hanging out with the boys, kick-ons after, lots of alcohol, lots of drugs. And I remember going on like a couple of 2-3 day benders, coming home looking horrible, not sleeping, and then getting a bit of rest in, and then doing it all again the next week. And in a sense, even up to the point that I met you, like the seriousness, or the money that came, then obviously gambling came into play, and all of these other pitfalls. Like I think if you're looking down a course of a track, realizing that that's the path, and then there's these little booby traps. I think I hit every single. I hit every single corner.
You ate them all
on the way down, on the way up to this. But so I mean, crazy stories. Yeah, like a lot of them are birth. I think I have a lot of vague memories and things like that of benders and kick-ons and stuff, which I kind of grateful for meeting my wife, who kind of got me out of all of that. Shout out to Annalise.
Rafa, did he tell you the story on how you met Anna?
I was there.
No,
I was there on the night, wasn't it?
No.
Oh, so it happened outside of the venue.
No, it happened on the Sunday, and I brought her down to Las Citas on the Thursday.
Oh, no. Yeah, okay. I know that side. Yeah.
No.
I remember Annalise coming to Trademark. She was a little pocket rocket, full of energy and
19.
jumping around and dancing and doing all the Pussycat Doll fucking choreographies and shit. And she would come and say hello, and instead of like hugging and kissing, she'll literally jump all 4 limbs wrapped around.
And she's like 5 foot nothing. 4 foot nothing. Yeah. Now, how I met her was funny. It was one of the Musa Boys gigs at the club.
Oh, okay.
And it was I think it was a Friday night or a long weekend, something like that. And Dave, God bless Dave, mate. Dave is, I think, hooked up a lot of the boys with their current wives. You know
Cupid.
what I mean? Yeah. And he came over to me and was like, bro, I met someone loud and like loud and crazy like you, bro, because he was trying to pick up her mate. And overcame Anna. And I took her to the bar, and I've done the dumbest thing, right? So I put my phone on the bar, and there was a girl that had just broke up with, or like stopped seeing, and I saved a number as for FFS, don't answer, meaning for fuck's sake, don't answer.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, Anna's standing here, and I'm here, and my idiot put my phone on the bar, and up comes that, and she's trying to call me.
Oh shit.
FFS, don't answer. And Anna looks and goes, I'm like, shit. And Anna looks at me and goes, oh, can I answer it? I go, yeah, answer it.
Wow.
And
was
that's
meant
how we
to be.
Yeah,
That's
so
incredible.
she's like, who's this? And like the girl's like, oh, who are you? Can I speak to DK? And she's like, who's DK? And blah blah blah. Anyways, lo and behold, I find out. So I spoke with Anna, swapped numbers, added each other on Facebook. Go back to emceeing, and so I didn't tell her what I was doing what I was doing there and all that stuff. And mate, she hardly drank, and in the 7 years or close to 8 years we've been together, I can count on two hands how many times she's been drunk, and that was probably the first time I've ever seen her drunk.
She's a cheap drunk.
Oh, badly.
Yeah.
Anyway, she came into the club and saw me on the mic, and like I walked around the side, and she's like, "What are you doing?" And then like ended up making out with me.
Oh wow!
Off the bat, like
wow.
Yeah,
Oh,
and I'm
Anna.
like, yeah.
She saw what she wanted.
She's gonna kill me.
No, why?
But the funniest is, so Dave introduces me, an hour goes past after that.
Yeah.
And Dave comes and grabs me and goes, "Bro, you got to see this." Pulls me out to the courtyard of the club. And Anna's there making out with this bloke.
No
She was on a
way.
date.
Oh, wow. Anna, I respect you so much. So much more.
She was actually on a date that night.
That's gangster.
And, typical 19-year-old at the time. I didn't know that she was 19, but, I mean, thank God she wasn't.
I
thought she was 50.
meeting the guy, and you said to me, yeah, that was the ex or something. He came somewhere, because me and you have done a million fucking things since then, but you told me, yeah, that's the ex.
Oh, no, yeah, that was her ex-boyfriend. Bro, you know the funniest is, and I don't know if this is funny or whatever, but, bro, I'm actually still mate. Like, this is going to sound weird to everyone out there and that, but I think it's a good... actually, I thank God for it because, I ended up being friends with a lot of my ex-girlfriend's ex-boyfriends.
Yeah,
So, like,
well,
the
there's
guys that
nothing
dated
wrong
up
with that,
before.
man.
You know what I mean?
It's unusual, but there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and, like, I'm actually still mates with most of them now than... that I speak to any of them, you know what I mean? So, like...
So, I just want to switch gears for a little bit. You know, as an MC in the events, in the clubs, you've had the pleasure of meeting, briefly sometimes not so briefly, a lot of celebrities and a lot of acts.
Yep.
Who have been the standouts, whether it be because they're cunts or whether it be because they were cool or they were just amazing, or tell us a few of those stories, man, for people at home.
The first one that comes to mind, see, bro, again, God's grace and being in the scene and stuff like that, I met a lot of my favorite rappers, man. A lot of my favorite hip hop artists and things like that. They weren't really big, but they didn't disappoint.
Yeah.
I think the biggest experience for me was meeting Proof.
Oh, wow.
D12 Proof.
Okay.
Eminem's Hypeman and Sidekick, R.I.P. Man, he had done a D12 concert, and I'd gone to the concert with my ex and another friend, and I just knew that they were going to end up a good bar, right? Because the only place open on a Thursday or a Wednesday. So we heard the concert and everything, and ran down to Good Bar, and K-Note was there. And I've gone over and started emceeing, and lo and behold, the fucking Proof walked past the DJ box, and me being the fanboy that I was, like, grabbed his arm, and I'm like, oh, like, and he's just looked and gone, oh, like that. And God bless, like, this chick that my ex was friends with. She was, I think, a Mountie County girl. She saw what happened, stormed over to him, and he had this big ass security guard, and she's turned around to, like, around the side of the guard and gone, "Fuck you, you rude motherfucker!" Like, blah 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 blah. My friend's boyfriend fucking loves you, and that's how you're gonna speak to him and treat him like this, that. And I realized at that point, like, I'd like toned down the fanboy like shit. You know what I mean? Yeah. And bro, it was just funny. Like, anyways, she just went off, and the security guard's like trying to usher her out or whatever. Anyway, she disappears. And about 10 minutes go past, and me and Kwame were vibing and whatnot. He comes back over to the box, and he goes, "Hey, man, what was your name?" I go, "Deekay, bro."
Nice, man.
I go, "Hey, bro, apologies about before, man."
Cool,
like,
man.
I kind of got,
that's
starstruck.
cool.
I go, "Bro,
That's
like,
good
it's
to
an
hear.
honor to be whatever." And, bro, we ended up sharing the mic that night. And,
wow.
because I remember, like, a lot of the lines, a lot of the, like, studying, DVDs and things like that of, like, performances and stuff like that. He was the official, like, in my opinion, the MC of MCs, in that sense of, like, being Eminem's sidekick.
Yeah.
And I've always looked at the role of an MC as the sidekick to a degree. You know what I mean? I've never been afraid to be the sidekick or
It's a compliment.
Yeah, that's right. And man, it was actually such a good vibe that night and whatever. And we actually swapped numbers. You know what I mean?
So you picked him up.
I picked him up. And then the next night, I was doing the Casey and JoJo after party. And man, he rocked up with the D12 crew.
Oh, wow.
And we ended up getting the back room opened and this, that, and I met all the rest of the group, and man, we hung out. And again,
Yeah.
you know, I introduced him to the bartender, and I like the. No, I'm joking. You know that T-Pain song. And yeah, man, like, so we were texting, like, he went back to Detroit or Cali or in between there, and we were texting or whatever. And then, man, it was just unfortunate. Like 6 months later or something like that, or 3 months later,
He was gone.
He was popped, you know. And he was even saying up until that point, from our messages and everything, was like, bro, when you come to Detroit, man, let me know. You need to come to the States, like,
Yep.
you know, blah 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 blah. You're like, you're good peeps and this, that. And man, that was probably, you know, they always say, oh, you never want to meet your idols. Like, nah, man, like,
Yeah.
you know, he was dope. And it was actually like probably one of the standout moments in my experience and whatnot.
And then, so now we're doing these Friday nights together.
Yeah, trademark. What the Funk
trademark.
Fridays.
What the Funk Fridays.
Yep.
That the name was an inheritance from working with the Brazilian
right.
boys.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
ran with it. It was pretty cool. Whatever.
Rose by any other name is still around.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. WTF.
Yeah.
We had some cool people come through as well.
100%.
Big Sean.
See, it was actually the first time on my side of things, like, bro, and that's what was the pleasure of working with you, right?
Yeah.
So I think in my immaturity at that point of doing that one-off event, which was, you know, I think we did 700-800 on that Friday. It was torrential rain and everything, and I partnered up with this girl to do it, and you know, pulled it off, and it was phenomenal. And I remember thinking in my head, going, I wanted to do it by myself, like, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And I remember then when they gave it to you, I was like, not offended, but I was just like, okay, bidding my time because they'd given it to other people.
Disappointed.
And stuff. Yeah, but bro, it's just funny again, being humble and staying, you know, like following what God directs in that sense.
Yep.
You stepped to me and asked me, you know, 2-3 times, and I think on the third time, like a little voice was like, bro, that's MC
Go for
Rafa.
it.
Like, that's MC Rafa. Like, are you stupid? Like, what are you thinking you're going to achieve on your own accord? And I thank God, bro. Like, we've been partners now going on to what, 7 years?
Long time in my
Like, man, and I think if I had, you know, if I didn't have that mentorship or that maturity that you possess at that pivotal time, I think, you know, if I'd tried to venture out on my own accord, it would have fizzled out within 3 months. Taking the losses, you know.
Yeah,
what I mean?
so around that time,
where were you?
I was a young cub.
Sorry to pause, but I remember when I met you at Sapphire, I think you were fresh out, and you were only doing personal training at that point. And
Not
I think,
even,
I think
I was
there was
just
a
helping out
4-year
people,
there was a 4-year gap between you and I teed up again, like officially, let's say.
Yeah, I think so, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd done a few things. So by the time we get to that stage, I had done I had a bit more experience in running events, but I was still what I would consider very green, you know. But
A lot more experience than me by then.
and I just remember just the nice flow, you know, like personal and business, and more like, okay, cool, the things that I know about. So, you know, let Rafa make the decision, and there's things that Deekay knows about. Let Deekay make the decision, and I think that's probably the sort of the parameters to a good business relationship with people.
100%.
That you kind of got to understand what each other brings to the table,
right.
and be happy sometimes to play Pippin.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
No, and I remember saying that to you.
Yeah, but it's not always like that.
No,
Like
no.
it's almost like And the other thing too is, and this is probably for everyone thinking about getting into business and business partners and things, it's cool if you can find a partner that, all the personal issues aside, which have to be there, so the trust, the flow, and all of these things, but it's important to have a business partner that doesn't know everything that you know. You get what I'm saying?
But still having, like, see, I've tried to do stuff with other peeps along the way, and their lack of experience in that sense, you end up doing all the weight. You get what I mean? So there has to be that, like,
So
balance.
cool. So definitely, you know, the balance,
which
and all
actually
these
you
things.
would have known,
Yeah, but I'm speaking more of in this case, networks, because this is what we're speaking about, and particularly with event promotion. So I had my you know, the Latinos and whatever I had on the other hip hop or whatever networks I had plugged into, and then you had your thing, which you've been in the cross for a long time, and you knew a lot of people that I would never know. And I knew a lot of people that you would never know. Until this day, it kind of still remains that way.
Right. That's right.
And that's the beautiful thing. And going back to what I was trying to say, you don't want to. I've worked with other people, where you kind of cancel each other out.
Yeah.
You don't want to cancel each other out. You want to work with people that know what you don't know.
That's
you know,
right.
so if I'm weak on IT, I need to get a partner that knows a lot about IT. You get what I'm saying? That kind of
That's
vibe.
right, yeah.
So I think that was probably one of the keys to the important keys to success on the business side. On the personal side, it was flow. It was all how it had to be as well. But coming back to some of the cool things we did, I remember Big Sean. I remember ASAP Ferg. I remember
we
the
did.
game.
Yeah, so we did Chingy.
Chingy.
We did Chingy game.
Yeah.
I think the first one was Big Sean.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was huge, but he hadn't cranked it at that point just yet. So I remember we got him for good price and everything as well.
Yeah. So those were good experiences, all great experiences.
So yeah, there was Chingy, Big Sean, the game, ASAP Ferg. That was dope.
Yeah.
Because I know speaking with his DJ as well, like they haven't had an after party like what we threw.
Yeah.
In the size of numbers and everything else as well.
We're navigating our way through running a weekly Friday night event in the Cross at the time when the whole lockout thing was kind of starting
on the horizon.
Yeah, on the horizon. I look at the map of Sydney, and I was reading reports and stuff, and I remember clearly seeing the line where the lockouts ended, which was Sydney CBD, and I remember clearly seeing the line along the water of Darling Harbour. I remember it was a red line. And so then I'm thinking, well, what does that mean? Does that mean that Cockle Bay Wharf is in and Harbourside is out? So I made a few phone calls, pain in the ass because it's not that easy to get these kind of responses and whatever. But so anyway, I went out and I spoke to a few of the venues and whatever, and I kind of worked out that that's what was going to happen. Essentially Pyrmont, which is another council, was going to be out of the lockouts, and so then I started doing a little bit of research, trying to find out whatever I could, and through our boy Busy, Mark, shout out to him and his whole family, Yael and all them. He put me in touch with one of the owners of Margaritaville, which is the old Docks Hotel in Darling Harbour.
Yeah, Edamoga.
Yep, the old Edamoga,
Yeah,
that's right. And you know, I ran I think it was a New Year's there, and I went like fucking nuts. And so I'm talking to these guys, and you know, it like it was on. Yeah. And I remember organising. They'd already agreed to the World Cup. We did a massive event there for World Cup in 2014. And around that time, I'm saying, Deeks.
No, I remember.
Look, man, lockouts are coming.
Yeah.
I'm doing Latin things on the Latin side. That's going along nicely. And I said, look, man, you know, we should be making a move on a Saturday night in Sydney, but we got to move because these lockouts are coming.
Yeah.
So you know, come. I've got a venue. Come with me. And I remember you arming and ahhing because obviously for a long time you were in the Cross.
I was in the Cross for a good 6-7 years.
Yeah, and at the time as well, you had a residency on Saturday night, which was well paid and whatever. It was comfortable, let's say.
Very comfortable.
So I come along and I say, jump with me. Jump off. Not jump off.
Yeah.
And you armed and ahed and you did.
Yeah.
And I'm very thankful.
Yeah, and I'm very thankful for the offer as well, bro.
So we're both very thankful because obviously what comes after is I Love Saturdays.
6 years.
6 years of
brand.
Like a super solid, you know, Saturday night in Sydney, you know, bulletproof as far as, you know, pumping every Saturday.
Yeah.
Amazing crew of people around us that we've developed over time, which is a testament to your personality and the way you work from the heart and you're passionate, which I think is also a big thing that people miss when it comes to, you know, making money or whatever. Paulie came along with the
how many years later was that?
Yeah, sorry.
No, but you know, he's you know, he was a part of that, him coming in and whatever, this big family, I Love Saturdays.
100%.
And then subsequently Margaritaville shuts down because of the infighting
within the year,
infighting with the owners. The place gets shut down. We walk down the road, confident as fuck, to my now good friend Jack Lucas, who was the GM at the Watershed, and I said, "Listen, brother, I know you got a night here." I go, "But we're closing at 6:30, 5:30 in the morning. We're kicking out 150 people at that time. you know, what do you want to do? We can literally walk this night over straight into your venue and rah rah rah. And he looked at us and he said, I'm closing my bar at 1:30, 2 in the morning.
See,
rah rah rah.
Yeah.
And he made the call 3 weeks later, Halloween 2000 and
wow. I got my phone. Do you want to look it up?
Man, Paulie can find out for us.
Yeah.
But so it was Halloween. I remember we jump over and it was just fucking nuts. From that point on.
2017 or something.
Nah, it's before that.
No, I think I'm pretty sure 2015.
Yeah, I think it's 15
Yeah.
in Mano. It's either 15 or 16.
Yeah,
It's 15 or 16.
Yeah, 6.
Yeah.
We had the brand for 6 years.
Yes. Yeah. So this year is 6 years. Yeah.
I'm very passionate about my Halloween costumes.
I know you are.
There you go. So he's gonna count how many Halloween costumes.
But let's talk about Margaritaville, man. Like, you see, it's funny. It's actually really interesting. Like, when you meet people now who are like, "Oh, you guys capitalize." Or no, prior to the lockouts being dropped, everyone used to turn around and say, "Oh man, you guys are so fortunate. That's why it's packed out because you got no lockouts. You got no lockout."
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, bro, you actually don't know the half of it. Like, you actually don't know the whole story because when we took Margaritaville over, it was a good 3 months of it being a ghost town. Because I think you and I both thought confidently.
Yeah, no. I mean, whenever you've got to
Transition.
not transition, but you got to introduce, you got to establish yourself, and you know, we're not talking about like $1 million advertising campaigns.
That's right.
We're talking about a grind. And yeah, there was, you know, 80, 100, 150, 200, 250, 250, 300, until, you know, the thousands and the 900s
right.
and the 1100s and the 1200s.
Staying up to 7 in the morning.
Yeah, but very interesting times and some crazy fucking times too, because
Definitely.
we had like all promoters, we have our issues with security and managers and you know, you got all
patrons.
Patrons of course, but you got all these chiefs and not so many Indians.
That's right.
But
No pun intended.
of course. Daniel wakes up.
I actually remember going to Watershed at Margaritaville to get more vodka.
Oh.
That's how packed out we used to get.
Yeah, there was a night they ran out of vodka in Margaritaville. They went over to Watershed to cut some over. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So lots of crazy times and abundance and fortunes made. Thank God for all of that and all the people that partied with us all those years and all those times. And
still do.
staff, still do, man. And staff that have come in and out that were still cool with everyone, thankfully. Which again, testament I think to the way we like to do things. And then obviously COVID hits this year on the back of the bushfires and all that, and that's just been absolutely
horrendous,
decimated.
Yeah.
You know, like no doubt about it. I think it's embarrassing the way the whole thing has been handled. We can probably save that for another day, or we can go into it today. But I just think that, you know, whether you actually believe in there being a virus or not that is causing all these apparent deaths and everything around the world, what we can all, at least I think the sane people can agree on, is that the overreaction is just embarrassing.
Yeah.
There is no such thing as locking people down and viruses going away. It never has happened and it never will. We've lived with germs and viruses for millions of years or thousands of years or decades at least, and there's never been a reaction or an overreaction like this. So hopefully there will be some sense coming back to our society soon. I think it is happening. I think people are starting to call bullshit. I've been calling bullshit from day one. I know you have too.
Yeah.
And I'm very vocal about it. People can call me a conspiracy theorist, and I will say, "Oh, thank you very much." I'm a tinfoil wearing motherfucker from way back. But yeah, so interesting times ahead, and unfortunately for us, as we've said, we will more than likely be the last ones to open. But I think the damage has already been done and will be done for many years to come. And I actually know for a fact that the deaths due to the response will be much higher than the deaths caused by the actual virus.
What did the CDC just recently say?
CDC, I saw this report today, but I think it's from the 29th. They admitted, finally, what we've been saying from day one, that 94% of all the COVID-related deaths
had 2 or 3 other serious illnesses.
2.6 is the average, meaning 94% of all those deaths may be rightfully attributed to other causes besides COVID, and only 6% of those cases can be attributed to COVID. But I would even challenge that 6%, because I know from the science that these people can't tell the difference between viruses and viruses. Even the PCR test is very questionable at best. But for them to come out and say in a little paragraph in a little study that no one in the media has picked up and ran off with, as they should be, because investigative journalism is fucking dead in the world, and all we have is reporters, repeaters instead of reporters, 94% of all the deaths in the United States should be attributed to other causes, not COVID. I mean, they don't say that, but when you read it, that's exactly what they're saying. I mean, if you have someone, with pancreatic cancer on his deathbed, and they test them for COVID upon his death, and or not even, because it's actually not even tested, it's suspected of. So I think not only is it embarrassing, but I think it's actually fucking criminal. I think all those people involved in the coroner type setups, in the autopsies, which they're not doing, but all the testing, all the so-called health professionals, all those people, there has to be a huge inquiry, and motherfuckers need to start going to jail, man, because 100%. This is an embarrassment.
Even all the way to the premiers as well.
Yep, most definitely, man. All the way up to this communist motherfucker that runs the WHO. He's got to go. Bill Gates has got to go. Fauci and all these fuckers got to go. Scott Morrison has to go. And these health professionals, so-called health professionals, which are all big pharma puppets, they all got to go too. And we need to go back to normalcy. We need to go back to no fear. We need to get rid of this conspiracy theory, which is the biggest conspiracy theory of them all, which is that COVID is actually doing what it's doing. And we all need to wake the fuck up and leave with no fear, and all love, and come back to freedom. And even beyond that, man, I don't think any government should have the power to lock people down, full stop, or to tell you when you can and can't work, when you can and can't travel. Get the fuck out of here.
Or impact an economy for the next 20, 50 years.
Who knows? That their role is to advise and to give you the best advice possible, and they should be extremely cautious with that advice, much more cautious than they have been. And get the fuck out of the way, because this is not freedom. This is a bunch
dictatorship.
This is a bunch of pencil pushers. They got no idea what the fuck they're talking about, telling people how to live. So I'm not cool with that, and I'm very passionate about that, and I'm proud about that. And history is going to judge all these people very poorly, man.
That's right.
They'll never admit to it officially. I don't think there will ever be someone coming out saying, "Oh yeah, by the way, 9/11 was an inside job," officially. Even though we all know. You get what I'm saying? And polls show that everyone knows.
Yeah.
But
isn't it interesting, right? Like the people that I've dealt with, the opening question I always ask them off the bat before getting into any of this was, do you believe 9/11 was an inside job?
Great call.
You're an idiot. Cool, we'll stop talking.
Exactly, yeah. Look, I think for a lot of people, 9/11 was the turning point. And for even greater number of people, COVID-19 is the next big turning point. And it's another play by this 1%.
That's right.
To change the world, and the silver lining, the blessing with all this suffering and pain and lies and anxiety and fear that's been spread around the world is because these people now are shown their hand. They've had to reveal themselves, let's say. A lot of people have, let's say, awakened. I don't like using that term because it's been sort of trashed a lot, but a lot of people
hijacked as well.
Yeah, a lot of people are looking behind the curtain now and going, "Oh, what's going on here?" Which is then led on to, pedophilia and all of these other things that are happening, which are part of and the spiritual battle, because ultimately it's a spiritual battle, and I know that's something that you're very passionate about as well. But yeah, man. So as far as we're concerned, and we've had these conversations, me and you are fucked. So if anybody wants to send us any money, www.unemployedeventorganisers.com is the place to go to.
Personally, hit us up on Instagram. Fun DK.
We're gonna do the best we can, man. Salud. But Deeks, sorry guys, I'm just drinking my distilled, filtered, hydrogenated, pH balanced. Fion water vortex treated water with my my mug sent by my beautiful lovely sister in Tehuacan in Mexico.
Nice.
She's moved there, she's living there.
Wow.
She just had a baby recently. God bless her, Gabriela, we love you. As you can see, it's very nice, very stylish. So God bless. Thank you, water. But we've actually got something that we've prepared.
Oh my goodness.
You okay? You ready?
Yeah, I'm cool.
So we've told DK that we've got a little something ready for him, just something that we can have a little bit of fun with. So what we'll do, we'll show him some images, and then you can sort of walk us through what it is that we're seeing, brother. So this is okay, cool. I'm gonna jump in on this one.
Okay.
This must have been, not must have been. This is the standard third world haircut. I thought it was just Latin America, but now I'm seeing this is also in Malaysia. So this is what we call the bowl cut, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's
so
exactly
this is like
what
the
it was.
Beatles.
Yeah.
The Beatles haircut.
That photo is from my second birthday at kindergarten when we were living in Ipoh. Apparently, I was scared of the barber, and I was also trying out for Jungle Book as a character, Mowgli.
Man, 100%, bro.
No, you say I had a little mustache at the age of 2.
Yeah, there you go.
No, but I was apparently
Early
scared of the
puberty.
barber, so mum for a certain time literally put a bowl and cut the fringe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think a lot of kids are scared of the barber.
Trademark onesie party.
You remember, huh? DK,
That smile though, like love it.
always there, man. That big smile and that very charismatic and the laugh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can get that on YouTube.
But
Steve Frankie.
But go back to the last one. So this shows DK's willingness to go all the way for the cause. Other people see a onesie, I see a dedicated fucking
MC.
Yeah, MC. Yeah, and that's that he does that little gay thing every now and then. Yeah, that's part of his little shy, introverted side of him.
Well, how funny is the fashion back then?
Oh, there's the braces.
The nerd party. Yeah, man.
Fuck
Actually,
me.
Wow.
That's fucking
Yeah,
shocking.
wow. No, they
Sorry,
were called
bro.
grills, all right? Like,
Good Paul Wall, baby.
no, but it's funny,
Wow.
man. Like, yeah, I think I'm the only, I don't know.
That's a fucking ugly mouth, man.
Dude, I was 25 years old and could finally afford to get, like, I had vampire teeth. I had one tooth, like, overlapping real
did you?
bad. Yeah.
Okay.
So I hardly smiled.
What are you
See-
doing, man?
So you can
Fucking
see
Paulie's
in
always
the
in a
next
rush,
photo,
bro.
but
Nazi
yeah.
cunt. Yeah.
So I actually hardly smiled. So at 25, I ended up getting braces, man. But thank God at the time that I got it
Yeah.
was when grills became popular.
Okay.
So I didn't actually have to
You
hide
got away
that,
with it.
But bro, like those
Were they
braces,
though?
those braces, like at one point I had a spring that went from one side to the other, overlapping, and like if you actually went and looked closer in the other profile pics, I actually smiled and you could see the rubber bands and the,
Oh, wow.
and the actual full blown like it was nuts.
Yeah.
But it was funny at that period in time, grills came out and everyone assumed I had grills.
It worked.
Yeah. So it was convenient. But yeah, that was a nerd party at Gossip, again, exclusive productions, Gary Ewan.
Gary, shout
That
out
was
to
a
Gaza.
home nightclub at the Terrace Bar every Saturday.
He remembers.
Yeah.
Go on. Oh.
Shock the City Day. So you can see I hardly smiled because you can just look above my gum. That tooth is
What
like...
about the hair on the chest? Is there a bit of hair on the chest there?
yeah, it would be.
Little bit, huh?
Clipping it off. My glue days.
That's a bit more
Checking
of a,
shit to a
in
popular.
Spanish we say eating the camera. You know when you go, he's eating the camera.
You look a bit Brazilian there.
You reckon?
So charismatic.
Charisma.
Charisma.
Wow,
Next.
shout out to upallnight.com. Those are the days.
Oh, is that Big Sean? Not Big Sean. Is that Jay Sean? Fucking Jay Sean.
Yeah, shit. Mate, that was a photo shoot I had with DJ Stanley back in the day.
Stanley, shout out to Stanley, man.
We were working
Talented
on we were working
motherfucker.
on a duo back then, like a little Deekay MC set.
Oh wow.
Which actually, we didn't get a chance to we only performed once by chance in Malaysia.
Uh-huh. So this is one of those ones where photographers say, bring some props.
That's right.
And you showed up and you had no fucking props, clearly. So you say, oh, don't worry, I'm just going to hang on to it. You, bro, let me borrow your chain.
Nah, that was actually this chick.
That's the Deekay thing, no?
Nah, I forget the girl's name, but this chick actually used to do these cool little necklaces and stuff. So that's actually a skateboard.
Yeah.
Was it a... Did it?
Oh, it is, yeah, it's a skateboard. You can see it.
It's a skateboard, and there used to be little graphics on it. So you used to,
Yeah.
I got given a lot of
Cool shit.
Yeah, cool shit back in.
Yeah,
back
it used to be a bit more like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it used to be a bit more like
things
oh, what? Look, man, look at that head of hair, bro.
Receding hairline.
Wow.
That was my gift. My tongue can touch my nose.
I'm sure Anna can vouch for it. All right, what else we got? Ah, that's a cool shot, man.
Yeah, that's a cool shot, man. Definitely.
Man, shout out to the great fucking Michael
Webb.
Michael Webb, man, our brother. He set the benchmark for all nightclub photographers,
I
man.
agree.
I think, bro. Yeah.
That's actually my favorite Deekay photo.
That's my favorite.
That's a
one
gun
too.
shot, bro. Yeah, that's really cool.
Let my mind speak.
Yeah, and it's also
artistic.
It's also
as Paulie would say.
he was a visionary. He was ahead of his time, and he was wearing a mask already.
How was that towel?
Actually,
I don't think you can see it there, but that DK's one of those guys that
I'm a sweat machine. Take a towel.
he
everywhere.
brings little towels and shit. Yeah,
Remember
I
the South
that.
Park character, Towley? Don't forget the Towley.
Not really. Oh,
Yeah, shit. Good old Annalise.
there's Anna. Now I call this is the ultimate groupie shot. Like, oh my god, my guy on stage.
That was actually the Tiger concert
A
couple of years ago.
Okay. Look at that groupie face, but biggest
I know.
smile in the world. Was that like the first time she'd done like a backstage, side stage?
Yes, yeah.
Oh,
Backstage.
of course.
At a concert of that caliber?
Yeah, super excited. Of course, look at her.
Yeah.
She can't hide it. Hello, Anna. And DK doing a half a pose there.
Look how big the beard looks from there.
Woof. That's a long ass t-shirt, man.
Yeah, I know.
Again,
My Rick Ross fights.
this is Deek's Margaritaville. I love Saturdays at Margaritaville. Wow.
Yeah, that was our onesie party.
Yeah, onesie party. Yeah.
Tickle
That's
me,
awesome,
Elmo.
man.
At least the staff got involved.
Tickle me, DK.
Listen to Paulie. Yeah, he wants to take credit for something, man. What is it?
Is that Paulie in the suit?
No.
No, that was someone else. I had the panda bear.
Remember?
Oh, yes, I remember
Yeah.
now. Yeah, wow.
That was a pretty cool time. Next one.
Hey, Kata.
Is that Kata?
That's kind of.
That's Catalina. Oh, yeah, of course, because that's what the funk. That's what we were talking about before. Shout out to Catalina Briseño, man. Check her out on Instagram and stuff. She's got some real cool stuff, man. Catalina Briseño. She's one of my girls, man. Awesome chick. Here, we got to play this. This is a video, no? Paulie?
Yeah, it's a video.
Can we play it or?
Shout out to Mr. K.
Here we go.
Yeah, that was going out to all the bad girls. Reminisce Volume 3. Here we go, Mr. K. And y'all drop it and don't stop it. You body rock it and then we pop it like error. Oh my God!
Hold on.
Oh, wow.
We need to do one of those live, man, on the mic, please. Please bless us with one of your trademark little. Ow. Come on.
Oh, shit.
Come on, fuck ya.
Oh, my God. Sound effects and everything going too.
See? Don't worry about us, man. It's only the first show, man. You
Yeah,
can imagine,
wow.
once we're here for a few weeks, we're going to be pulling out all stops, man. We're going to be
100%.
shit popping out under the table and everything.
Yeah, man.
But there's one thing that kind of off the back of COVID, because I'm actually, sometimes I need to scratch myself, because just to give you a little preamble.
Yeah. Scratch yourself or scratch your head?
Pick a spot. So I'm the son of, guerrilla fighters, communists, activists. You know, my mum's cousin in Uruguay was a cop killer.
Wow.
My dad was a personal bodyguard for communist politicians, so they wouldn't kill them when they were going out to country towns and shit.
Yeah, wow.
My uncle, was given the task of murdering the head of the intelligence in Uruguay. He didn't do it, not because he didn't want to, but because they wouldn't allow him to. My grandfather had to flee the country because he was a gun smuggler.
Wow.
And he ended up fleeing via land and ended up in Cuba, died in Cuba. And he, apparently, I can't confirm this, but he was the second foreigner to become a member of the Cuban Communist Party after Che Guevara.
Yeah, wow.
Che.
Yeah, wow.
So that shit is running in my blood, and I was brought up, socialist, communist, and my parents used to sort of look at the USSR and Cuba and all these places. Actually, my mum could even speak a bit of Russian.
Wow.
Because that's their generation. They were like the red generation,
Mm-hmm.
So fast forward all these years, and that left socialist whatever movement is completely fucking hijacked.
Yeah.
By
As
all
a lot
these,
of things are.
Yeah, by all these pedophile fucking whatever motherfuckers running the world, like the Clintons and the Soros, and Black Lives Matter completely hijacked, environmental movement completely hijacked.
That's right.
So here I am, 2020, and Rafa has a lot more in common with right-wing conservatives and Christian people who for many decades were the enemy.
That's right. It's funny, It was always influential in music and hip hop and everything, and like.
Yeah.
But you see, for you to admit that.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many of my favorite rappers that I looked up to, who are in recent times I've had to like either unfollow them or delete them off Facebook, purely because, mate, you're sticking to something that you can't see has been hijacked and taken over.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I think a lot of those people, you don't bite the hand that feeds you, and there's a lot more to it. But let's keep it simple.
Yeah. Good point.
And I want to bring it to back to 2020, as I was saying, because you've been a Christian for a very long time, and in the last few years you've become a lot closer to God, and I guess what would be your take on the whole current day religious battle? Where's the churches at? Where's your faith at? And where do you see the role of the Christian man and woman, but man in the current day and age? Because there's this big sort of battle between obviously technology and faiths which come from 2,000 years ago, and so it's kind of like in many ways Christianity's struggling to reinvent itself a little bit, because for a lot of people even speaking about being homophobic or whatever is a big no-no. But I wanted to, so where do you see all of that, and how do you feel about what's going on in the spiritual battle that's happening in the world?
Okay, so by title and name, look, my obviously my bloodline's a lot different on my dad's side, especially.
Yeah.
I do have some of the, for lack of better terms, let's say the shady characters in a sense. But I think depending on heart and your heart, you can either go one way or the other. Do you know what I mean? You can either die and fight for a cause, or sit sublime and whatnot. So just to recap, like my dad's side, I come from a line of 54 priests, pastors, priests, bishops, and whatnot.
Wow.
Stemming back to India. My last name's Thomas, because apparently. Need to actually it's a bit hard to get my dad to open up about past things and stuff like that. Yeah. So apparently my ancestors were the converts of the Apostle Thomas, who made it to India and passed and whatnot. Because I come from a line of fishermen, in that sense.
Interesting.
Like from a fishing village originating on my dad's side. Anyway, so for me, growing up as a Christian, let's say, and indoctrinated in church and whatnot and stuff. Like, look. I say what I've experienced in the last 3 years in my faith and my walk with God has probably been the pivotal point.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things where the sad thing is, and like especially now with COVID and everything else, I've had a lot more time to, as mentioned before, reflect and do a lot more insight and a lot more study, and realize that, you know, when you look at the Bible and things like that, it is, so I don't think it's about Christianity reinventing itself. It's Christianity going back to its original roots in the primitive church. The problem with, you know, when I say the primitive church, I'm talking about the Acts of the Apostle, the book of Acts. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of things that happened in the early church, like even, you know, if you read book of Jude, 4 AD after Christ died, like you've got Jude, Jesus's brother, writing a one chapter book that mentions like, beware, certain individuals have crept in unnoticed, right, who've turned the grace of God into lasciviousness and lewdness, and have, you know, like twisted it for their own gain and their own and whatnot. And this is just 4 years after Christ died, if you want to look at it historically. And I think, you know, if you want to talk about, like, for me personally, I hate religion. I hate the hypocrisy. I hate the double-mindedness, but that's also like an individual thing. A dogma. And, you know, I've heard, like, speaking with a couple more of the, you know, the religious types who have even said, surprisingly, who've come out of that spirit, you know, we call it a spirit of religion, right? Who've come out of that, has said, man, so many churches have got it so twisted where they've put the church first and then the word of God second. And, you know, I sat down and did some reflection on that, and, you know, I was talking, having my, you know, my prayer time with God, and it was like, wow, man, you know, the scripture comes up where God himself has put his word above himself, right? Because if you want to look at it from this side of things, it's like God, the Almighty, you know, creator of the universe and whatnot. There's no one else higher than him that he can promise. When he says something in his word, it's a promise to you. And because there's no one higher than him, the only thing he could do is swear on his word, or promise on his word. So when you've got a religious organization that teaches you church first and then the word, mate, they've basically put the church above God himself. Right? So it's completely out of order.
Or at least they've
put
themselves between God and the people.
That's right.
So you can't get to God without going through them.
That's right. And that, I think, has been the plague since, you know, the Dark Ages, are coming out of the Dark Ages. And, you know, the sad thing about not understanding, and this is where it sort of got me, or jerked me, like when I say heart jerked me, because what I've realized more and more is, you know, people turn around and say, oh, you know, don't worry, turn the other cheek. Like, it's, you know, God, it's God, like, you know, the Bible says, it's mine to avenge. So God will avenge them. And, you know, revenge is mine, says the Lord. And we take these verses thinking, okay, and we build this sense of self-righteousness, like, oh, well, I'm not. And I always go back to this. I love this parable, and I can't recall it from the life of me, where Jesus talked about two men that went to church. One was a Pharisee or a Jew, and the other was a tax collector. And he goes, and he paints this, through this parable, he paints this picture of, you know, this Pharisee or this Jew came to the altar, and he came to God saying, Lord, I thank you that I'm not like this adulteress, and, you know, I fast 2 days a week and I give my tithes, and I thank you that I'm not like this adulterer or this fornicator, and not like this man over here who's a tax collector, right? And, you know, and thinks really highly of himself. And then the tax collector, who can't even bring himself towards, you know, stand at the altar of God and stand at the front of the church, is in the back of the temple, not the synagogue, let's say. And he's beating on his chest, and he looks to heaven and he says, Lord, like, forgive me, I'm a sinner. He goes, who do you think walked out of there more justified, right? And the thing that used to burn me so much growing up was, you know, like, I love my parents. You know, the problem with us is that you know, being married now and everything else, it's like some of the things that I feel God's been stripping off me was the fact that I can either, it ends with me, like all the generational stuff, all the generational curses, all of these things, it can either continue on with me or end with me.
Yeah, God bless you, man. I hear you, bro.
And, you know, God bless my parents in that sense, where I was never raised in a denomination. Like, so most of my Christian life, or most of my life, let's say, I've never known what it is to be, say, a Methodist or a Catholic. I've never actually ventured to study.
Lines.
So for me, it's always been Word of God and standing on that. So, so the sad thing is, with a lot of churches, we've misconstrued the image of God, and we actually don't know the characteristics of the hearts of God. So, say, going back to the revenge part that I was trying to get at, it only hit me like I love the Bible study I go to, man. Shout out to Pastor Rabbi Abraham, Tony Saker, and whatnot. Like, these are real influential men that I've walked with for the last 3-4 years. You know, Rab's mate's been walking the faith for 6 years, like, but ahead of his time in a sense of compared to, you know, a lot of other people that I've walked along with and fallen off with, like, over the years. And yeah, so Sony was saying, like, mate, he goes, you know, we sit here thinking God's revenge. So, you know, like, I mean, I'm sure you've come across certain individuals when you've done wrong by them. It's like, don't worry, man, revenge is mine, says the Lord, and you will get yours and this, that. Man, to understand God's revenge, you know what God's revenge is? To get you saved. Yeah. That's his idea of getting revenge. Like, when you think about it, look at the Apostle Paul, for example, on the road to Damascus, thought that he was, you know, doing God's will by persecuting and killing Christians and bringing them to court and going out to arrest them and this, that, and the other. And, you know, it was, and this is the part that no one actually understands. They think that Christ just appeared to him on the road to Damascus, and you know, it was by this divine intervention that, you know, Jesus himself presented himself to Christ, like to Paul, through a bright light, knocking him off his donkey or his horse. And he says, Paul, why do you persecute me? And he goes, who are you, Lord? He goes, I'm Jesus Christ, the one you're persecuting, right? And many people think that was just by chance and whatnot. But you see how God, like God's revenge, he stepped to him and he's like, Lord, what would you have me do? And here's a guy that had been killing, murdering Christians, all of a sudden takes a 7-year journey into Christ, not needing to seek the approval of men or the super apostles, who, by the way, also started getting it wrong. Do you know what I mean? And he does this whole backflip and comes straight back to God. And all of a sudden, that in a sense was like God's revenge, is to get him saved and to realize, to bring you to the realization that it's not about you. There's a self-righteousness that we tend to build up in ourselves, whether it be through religion or even politics and all of these things where, you know, we get this head of ourselves, and we actually forget, like, as a Christian, the core fundamental purpose of what Christ is and what God is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What's being a little striking to me to see over the last, let's say, decade, but probably less than that, in a more concentrated or more visible or palpable way, is to see a religion or a faith or a group of people that have been traditionally followers of government and you know, sort of always pandering to like right-wing conservative politicians and stuff like that, was so-called. But lately, I think people are seeing that there's much more to it, and that in fact probably they were being manipulated or led astray in a way, or being being bullshitted too, essentially. And now I'm seeing a big current of like rebellious Christianity who are calling for, you know, things to change and to come back to, and to, so less conformism and more, you know, rebellion.
A form, like, meaning in a good way or a bad way? Or?
No, I think definitely in a good way, hence why I led in with the fact that I'm having a lot more in common with Christians and religious and right-wing, so-called right-wing conservative politics. I don't like those left-right things, but I'm just speaking in terms that can be easily understood and shared. But yes, I'm seeing that, and I'm actually vibing with these people, because it's almost like all of these conspiracy theorists, again, I don't like these terms, but have now joined hands with all these Christians, you know, even though they've come from totally different backgrounds or from different starting points, because that's what's happening to me. I mean, some of the stuff that I've been talking about for years, that I've been reading about for years, nowadays are almost common practice or common, openly spoken about within Christian circles, about what's happening with pedophilia, about what's happening with the hijacks of all these movements and social outrage and the equal marriage type stuff, which and that's how they trick you, right? I actually believe in equal marriage, but I don't think that homosexuality should be celebrated or encouraged any more than what you would call normal men to women. You know, because there's clearly something going on here which is very fucking strange. And I think that's where the Christians are coming in a lot, right? They're sort of
I love everyone and like oh, you know, accepting of
accept
everything.
to the point where there's nothing left.
Yeah. See, I think the biggest thing with homosexuality in the Bible as well is that look, I don't want to get into the core fundamentals to offend anyone on that side, but where everyone seems to get their knickers in a knot is that the Bible clearly states X, Y, Z, but you're forgetting that the Bible actually condemns all of that. Like there's a whole avenue of things. You know what I mean? Sex outside of marriage was frowned upon. So it's not a matter of like these guys are specifically going to hell, which is what people have got it wrong. But it's anyone that continues to practice in this, right? And you know, sex, for example, like we take it for granted, but again, because of TV, because of all these things, because everyone's doing it, it's glamorized and stuff. But come on, man, you and I both know, personally speaking, I'm sure you can say it as well, is like there is something that you lose about yourself, or something that you don't get back, or something that actually happens. And this is where I know, like, look, I think there's been a lot of wrong doctrine and a lot of wrong interpretation over the years that has now become doctrine, right, on certain issues, and whether it be politics or personal or spiritual,
of course, man-made.
Exactly. And you know, I think sexual immorality, like one of the ways the enemy twists it, like let's not get it twisted, the devil knows scripture too. Like, you know, when he tempted Jesus, he was using scripture against him. So it's a matter of understanding, okay, cool, there, like how I've been the last 3 years for me, and even more so recently, I realized it's like, you know, the tip of the iceberg. So you say you can read the Bible in what they call the Logos and the Rhema, right? So I might have got this wrong, but the Logos is the actual written word, and mate, you're only getting a tip of an iceberg by reading it. But there's a Rhema word, which is like this whole underground spiritual side that is beyond the pages.
That's right.
That people miss out on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a depth, definitely.
So I mean, like say Israel Folau, for example, everyone got so offended at what he said, but you're forgetting the verse that he actually, you took the verse that he actually said, focused on one element and took it all out of context and blew up at the bloke and got up him. Could he have done that in a different manner and a different way of exposing it? Of course.
I'll give you my take on Izzy Folau. And people like Izzy Folau because he's not the only one. So we are in a Christian country. But I mean officially, you know, because all these people swear on the Bible when they, you know, when they're brought into power and the cross and everything is there. And all of these people, like our Prime Minister, openly goes to church and openly flaunts his Christianity and et cetera, et cetera. And Christianity is quite clear on homosexuality. Now, whether I agree or disagree with what Izzy Folau say, I think how hypocritical is it that all of these people are coming after him for his beliefs, when essentially we're all supposed to be Christian anyway.
That's right.
So to give you an example,
and I have freedom of speech and have to have an opinion.
No, not only that. I mean, if so, the Prime Minister, he's our leader, so I have to single him out. He wants to pick and choose which bits he likes and he doesn't like,
which
of
is
the religion.
What everyone has been doing.
Yeah, forever. So the thing is, why is it such a big surprise that Izzy Folau is saying what he's saying when it's older than all of us by 2,000 years? I mean, it's been there for fucking ever.
Yeah.
Again, agree or disagree. So I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you disagree with Izzy Folau, you disagree with Christian faith. Now, you can have your own version of Christian faith, but it's still the Christian faith.
Yeah.
Right? So why is it? So my question is, why is it such a fucking outrage? I mean, the guy's stating something that's overtly obvious to every Christian and non-Christian that knows about Christianity. So why are they singling him out so hard? You understand what I'm saying? And then there's another conversation altogether, which is, motherfucker, freedom of speech.
That's right.
That's what I fucking believe.
Yeah, that's right.
And then you can say, well, he signed the contract or whatever. that's definitely, in my opinion, he should never sign that fucking contract.
That's right. 100%.
It's like when we all click this I agree
Yeah,
thing,
I agree, yeah.
and then we
Terms
want to
and
bitch
conditions
about,
and then,
you know.
They used my information. We just gave it away. Like.
And there's always the culprit behind all this, in my opinion, the media, who's always in the background trying to fucking sell a newspaper, trying to get a headline grab, whatever. So they will ride that motherfucker into the ground, regardless of how much damage they're causing him, his family, his people, his faith. They don't give a fuck. They're the most reckless motherfuckers.
Look,
you know?
I'm going to say it, right? So the verse that he quoted, I can't know it off the top of my head, but basically it lists, right, everything, like a couple of preachers that I love listening to, Dave Roberson, for example, he mentions that all of that list that was stated, that, you know, those that won't inherit the kingdom are, you know, fornicators, the drunkards, you know, homosexuality, the homosexuals, the ones that disobey their parents, all of these things. You know, that list is actually a form of idolatry. So in the Christian faith, let's say, all of those things are a form of idolatry. What happens with idolatry? See, where we get twisted is that we think, right? So there's another false doctrine that happens, right? It's God's will that this person died, or this person was sick, or this person is carrying this, and we've ended up with this doctrine of like, oh, that's my cross to carry. Bullshit, right? If you actually understand Christianity, understand why Christ came and all of these things, was that he's paid the price. So imagine you're out for dinner and your mate pays the bill. There's nothing else you can do. It's been paid for. It's done. Accept it, walk in it. So another thing that we fail to realize in Christianity is that Christ died for your individuality, right? It's not that we're all going to die, go to heaven, wear white robes and be clones. No. That's not the case. He died for your individuality. So meaning when I say he died for your individuality is that he's paid the bill, he paid the price. It's now our choice what we do. So God made a promise that he will never touch our free will. It's our choice and our direction, right? The devil comes along, sets booby traps, sets baits, sets layers. Now, everyone fails to realize the devil's not omnipresent, right? Holy Spirit, Christ, God, omnipresent. The devil's not. What he does is he sets traps, he sets baits that we fall into that end up becoming idolatry, form of idolatry, things that we worship, things that take the place in our hearts of where God's rightful place should be, the throne room of our hearts, right? This is what I'm saying from the Bible, right? So when you look at all those things that he listed, these are things that take place over your heart, right? Now, he mentioned fornication and homosexuality. So it's obviously two different things at the same time. So that's where everyone gets confused about and gets riled up about. Like, look, everyone, it's safe to drink a whole bunch. Like, don't get offended, but I'm just saying, like, to anyone listening, I'm just saying, for example, it says drunkards, right? You and I both know the effects of alcohol. I personally know the effects of alcohol. I personally know the effects of drugs and everything else as well. And what the impact that it did, like I said previously, it was at that point that I could have either fallen off this cliff and never returned, or pulled back and set back on a path to walk into everything that has been promised and received through an inheritance in my faith. Do you know what I mean? And I can honestly say that if it wasn't for that belief or the prayers of my grandmother or anyone that was in the past, because God is faithful to his word and to his promises. So back to Paul, for example, no one realizes the only reason that Christ stopped Paul on the road to Damascus was because if you rewind it back, the apostle Stephen, who was stoned to death outside the city gates, who, if you read the book of Acts, Stephen was one of those guys that spoke out, and there was actually a group called the Sons of Liberty, right, that challenged him because they believed in a whole way of life that even pagans found detestable. So these guys were driven. So you see the connections I'm trying to say is that we've got groups in this day and age now that even someone that was on the left is looking at what they're doing and finding it horrible. So Stephen had this opposition from a group called the Sons of Liberty, correct me if I'm wrong, and they came out, started spreading horrible things about him, saying that he said this, said that, and he got challenged by the religious authorities of the time. He ends up testifying and says this epic, beautiful speech, like he just slammed them, right? And these guys, by the end of his sermon, or by the end of his testimony, ripped their, threw their garments,
tore their clothes off.
Tore their clothes, dragged them out there. And what everyone, people tend to forget is that these men, as they dragged them out and threw them out of the city, left their coats at the feet of Saul, which is Paul, right? And here's Stephen about to get stoned and everything, and instead of retaliating, he looks up and he says, like, along the lines of similar to what Jesus said. I'm paraphrasing here, but you can go to Acts and have a look. He looks up to heaven and he says, look, the Son of God is standing at the right hand of God, like standing at the right side of God, right? Sorry, am I too loud?
No.
Okay. He's standing at the right hand of God. So normally he's always seen as seated, but he's standing, right? And he says along the lines of, man, I would love to find it, but along the lines
I'm sure people can find them.
Yeah, along the lines of like, man, Father, forgive them, or like, Lord, let this sin not be on them. And by him doing that act of forgiveness, right, opened up the door, because then you see there's reference to Saul standing there approving. So they lay their cloaks at the feet of young Paul, right, who was approving these things. And because of his intercessory prayer of forgiveness, Father, forgive them. See, even Jesus at the cross was like, Father, forgive them all, they don't know what they do. This is where the church has also forgotten. The act of forgiveness is so powerful in releasing God's hand or plans for revenge. You know what I'm saying?
Look, I mean, I think we can go on and on and on about scripture and the versions and the readings and the underground and the depth of it all. But yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely a big connection with a lot of people sort of going back to the original kind of readings and the original faith, and also
the original format or blueprint.
Yeah. If there ever was one that wasn't heavily again hijacked by powerful elites. But what I appreciate is the much more independent thought that's coming out from these groups. And I think that's where, going back to where I was coming in, is where I'm finding myself, you know, like, I mean, not only with Christians, but again, the right, like I'm sharing fucking Alan Jones every day. I mean, you know, I probably would have vomited in my own mouth a few years ago. But, you know, the guy's on point. And then even Andrew Bolt, again, you know, which is like the firebrand new version of Alan Jones, again, on point, calling bullshit on a lot of the things that are going on. And I really appreciate the fact that nowadays, because it wasn't so some years ago, when I remember being alone in the wilderness with not many people sort of agreeing or even sharing or even discussing openly issues like pedophilia at an elite level and at a government level. And you know, again today there was a video going around again about Bill Heffernan, the senator, former senator, I think, speaking in that Senate inquiry, I think it was, where he's got a document which he doesn't want to read, but on that document there's the names of 28 people, high-ranking people in our, mainly in the judicial system, but also he mentions a former prime minister, who were investigated by the AFP and New South Wales Police, and the whole thing was hushed. And officially, this is in Parliament now, and the Royal Commission into Childhood Abuse decided not to pursue them. And they remained off the records, and also their names sealed. Now this man is in this Senate inquiry, and he's got the names in front of him. He's looking at them, and you can see by his face that he's looking at them, and he's dying to say who they are, but he can't, because Heffernan, far from being perfect as all of us, but he was his own man in many ways. He even intervened somehow when I had my issues with the sleeping judge all those years ago. So, you know, I think very interesting times where we're seeing these convergences. You know, this convergence between, you know,
man, it's right and wrong.
That's it. It's not left or right. It's right and wrong. 100%. And if anything, if you were to bring it back to say democracy. Vote the idea, vote the plan, let's say, don't vote the man. You know, there's no such thing as the man, you know, unfortunately.
See, the thing that burns me as well, like I was actually having a nice conversation with a friend, and you know, trying to explain the two sides to, you know, you can't compare what happened, say, with this bloke to this, like the different circumstances and everything else as well. And you know, their response was along the lines of like, I don't see it as two separate occasions. People are complex like that.
Well, there's some truth to that. I mean, you can't. Not everything is black and white.
No.
And one man's right sometimes is another man's wrong.
Yeah.
But and that's where we do have to be forgiving and accepting, and also I think flexible. But definitely.
Yeah.
You know, some of the shit that's going on. But listen, I need you to hold that thought. I'm actually fucking busting. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave you in the hands of the very beautiful Paulie B, because I know he's got some things to say.
Yeah.
He's been waiting for...
No, maybe we have a pause, because I think I need to go to the toilet.
All right, let's go. All right. So after a very small toilet break, all three of us were fucking busting. There's nothing we can do about that, unfortunately. It's been a couple of hours, and unless we put pee bottles underneath the table, or catheters, the best thing to do is just take a small little break. So, but yeah, man. So I just to kind of pick up where we left off. I'm encouraged because I know that obviously Christians, big numbers around the world. And there's other similar-minded people that I speak to, like yourself, but that come from again the Christian kind of background, and I appreciate the fact that they're starting to see behind the curtain. And then I encourage everyone that's listening to do the same. Like to question.
Like the thing that got me, I think, especially at the start of COVID and all the docos that are circulating and things like that. Man, if anything, it's pushed me further into my faith, because there is an evil, and if anything, like I think the reality of seeing Satan at work has actually like manifested a lot more.
Of course.
Do you know what I mean? And then seeing the comparison of like, oh my God, like this is what's happening.
That's right.
And the Bible talks about a veil being placed over their heart, a veil being placed over their heart.
Yeah.
And then to actually see like, man, don't these guys know what they're doing is actually like wrong? Like, how is it justified? Like, the rioting, the looting, and all of these other things that are happening overseas and around the world, and again, back to the pedophilia side of things, and then it's like, oh my God, like, well, okay, cool, it's like the thing with adrenochrome and all of these things that have come into place, adrenochrome. Yeah. So I was listening to someone who was talking about, the Bible states that our battle's not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers, rulers and dark forces.
Yes.
So what this bloke was stating, and there's a really good guy that I don't know if you've heard of him, Mark Taylor as well. He runs an epic podcast at the same time, and he actually had a bunch of prophecies that came out in 2015, 16, I think maybe give or take. And I haven't heard much of him, but I've heard snippets here and there. But one of the talks that he had was one that actually jumped up at the right time, I guess, where my headspace was at amongst COVID and everything else, and it was called "Don't Panic." And it was epic what he pointed out. And again, quoting that scripture, our battle's not against flesh and blood. Like, what feeds these what feeds these spiritual powers, or these these battles not against flesh and blood, but a principality? What feeds these principalities and high powers is this source of blood.
Yeah.
Right? And then to understand and make the connection between Planned Parenthood, the vaccines that are coming out, the known fact that they've come out, the fact that they've come out saying that in these vaccines is aborted fetal tissues and things like that.
Well, I'll tell you something, man, because you touched on something which, David Icke, I think who seems to coin a lot of phrases and terms, like the problem reaction solution thing, which is the Hegelian dialectic, or you guys can look this up at home. But the thing we have with all these people who are not seeing the bigger picture is they're basing, like on COVID, for example, they're basing their opinions on sources of knowledge which are this big, and we live in a world that's compartmentalized and managed in compartments, and that's how they work. I mean, a doctor may know a shitload about what drugs to give you, but he may not know a lot about the cutting edge nutrition, or he may not know about how quantum physics is proving that we are all light, and what religions have been saying for thousands of years. It's almost like in order to see the bigger picture, you need to see the bigger picture. You need to zoom out and go, hold on, okay, cool. This thing ties in with this thing, and ties in with this thing, and ties in with this thing. And I think what's happening is because the devil, because these dark forces have had to push their hand, that they've had to make their move, because we are in times of spiritual ascension.
Yeah, that's right.
Right, we're on our way back to the golden age, and that's why even Jesus, there's a lot of parables between what Jesus said and the end of ages and the Mayan calendar and all these things, right? That are in conjunction. Which again, when you look at the bigger picture, in my opinion, humble opinion, they all working together. A lot of these people are not seeing that bigger picture, and these dark forces, with all of these protests and riots and enlightenment and people returning to the faith and coming back to source and unbecoming who we are not, which is something my shaman from the ayahuasca side speaks a lot about. They've had to do what they're doing now, which is they need to quash and suppress. And they need to lower this raising vibration, which is happening everywhere in the world. And another thing I also always make reference to is a lot of the revolutionary, crazy commie lefties in years before, they had this phrase: "The revolution will not be televised." It was like a thing, right? And again, I say the same thing now. You know, you're not going to see a lot of these things officially accepted by mainstream media, and furthermore, we don't even have investigative journalism anymore, which is what I was making reference to before. So what do you end up with? Because there's a vacuum there. So what happens? You got all these people, you, me, everybody, seeing these things and reporting and sharing, and see, these tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorists are the investigative journalists that we don't have anymore.
That's right.
You know,
that's exactly
that
right.
we have had from time to time in different places, even though the media is being monopolized by a few for a long time. You always had, you know, some diamonds in the rough, let's say. So you know, I think what's happening with a lot of these people who up until now have been more conditioned to be right or Christian or conservative or whatever, they're starting to go, hold on, man, there's some real shit going on here, and shit is going down. I mean, I've had some days during all this COVID crisis where I've been extremely depressed and concerned for the future, because it almost feel like that day that we've all been speaking about for such a long time is here. Now the upside to all of that is, and now I think it's always good to not to end on a positive thing, like, oh, let's just bullshit ourselves and everything's good, because the battle is still, the war is to be won, the battles are being won, but the war has to be won, and this thing has to be gotten over, and we've got to make sure that it never happens again. And that's why when people say, oh no, but we're going to go back in November, I'm like, no, motherfucker, we might go back in November, but we got to make sure that this never happens again. And the pedophile rings never happen again, and the banksters and all these fucking, you know, mafias and people that are running the world, you know, they need to get the fuck out, right? So
it's funny, like, sorry to interrupt.
No,
but it's just funny how people are like, oh, I can't believe the way the world's become. Dude, you actually.
It's been like that for a long time.
A
very long time. A very long time. A lot longer than even you and I know, my friend. But again, they're revealing themselves. So, but what I'm seeing and what I'm feeling and what is actually happening is there is a global awakening that had already begun a long time ago, but now it's happening en masse. It is. It's coming off at the seams, you know. But it will not be televised, right?
Because who controls those avenues?
No. And
their
levers are in government and stuff as well. So it's still amazing for me to see. Like, I think the Victorian police chief or something came out last night, because, you know, those boys that they've been kind of running amok a bit and stuff. Power to them. I may not agree with everything they're doing or saying or acting, but bro, it's on. Like, we got to do something, right? and you know, and he comes the chief police, I think of Victoria or whatever, some copper, and he come out saying, oh, you know, he's tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theories, rah rah rah. Well, look, I mean, if that's how they want to talk about potentially a massive chunk of the population, and thankfully ever growing chunk of the population, and much bigger than they even have, you know, have a real idea about, because I think, as Alan Jones has been saying, it is a silent majority.
100%.
You know, but all, because I don't speak to everyone. I kind of stick to my circles, but when I venture out to shops and to this and even my pool cleaner and stuff, these people, everyone's thinking almost the same thing. Like, oh yeah, no. And then when you actually speak about it, they go, yeah, it's bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm fucking sick of it.
When you
get
to the
I'm fucking sick of it. It's bullshit. Well, and I because I openly say to people like at Bunnings or whatever, I say, hey man, like, and I mean this from the heart. Yeah, I say, guys, make sure you take a break from your mask.
Yeah.
You know, because they don't tell you that, but you need to, because it's a cesspool of bacteria and the low oxygen and everything.
I think I wore mine for one day, and no, not even one day. Just like we're getting a scan.
Yeah.
And I had my mind, like they made me wear one, and I had it on for about 10 minutes, and the coughing fit that I developed from that.
There you go.
I was like, I can't wear it. I'm sorry. Like,
yeah, they don't want to talk about that. But but so again, so I say, look, take a break. And actually, when you start that conversation, all these people who seem like scared and fear, they go, oh, fuck this shit. I'm just doing it because they tell me to do it. I don't give a fuck. Like even like an old lady, old Aussie lady who I expected her to be super like, she was like, oh, I can't wait to get the fuck out of here and take this shit off. I go, oh, so you don't wear it at home? She goes, no. I go, what about down the street? She goes, no, never. Why would I? And I was like, okay, cool. Respect. Having said that, love and compassion and flexibility and freedom of speech and freedom of action, it cuts both ways.
Yeah.
If someone wants to wear a mask because they're in fear because they have a compromised immune system or they think they have by all means wear it. Yeah. If someone thinks that they should be quarantined at home because they're scared of the boogeyman, by all means stay at home. You have that right to do that. What you don't have the right to do is tell me what to do with my life.
That's right.
And that's where I draw the line with all of these motherfuckers in power. I don't care at what level, I don't care what organizational level, you don't have the right to tell me what to do. But equally, I don't have the right to tell you what to do.
That's right. See, like what's bugging me, like as you were talking, and again, back to Christianity and whatnot, and what I was saying about, you know, Christ dying for your individuality. Isn't it so interesting how, like, I don't even want to say left side or whatever, but the powers to be, let's say, the powers at the moment, let's say, it's like they don't want you to have your individuality.
No,
it's like they have to compartment. You have to be. You have to fit into one.
Yeah,
you're talking about compartmentalizing.
Yeah,
right?
you have to.
You have to fit into one of these categories that they've laid out. Definitely. You have to abide by what we say. So,
of course.
You know, it's funny. Like they're pushing, you know, this no gender thing. There's no gender agenda. There's no this mask thing. Like, so your whole identity has been taken from you.
Of course.
And what's funny is like, I think even how we're built up as humans, human beings, we've got spirit, soul, body, right? Well, the key waves in between those two paths, between, you know, your spirit and your soul, I might have this out of order, but between your spirit and your soul is your mind. Between your soul and your body is your heart. You know what I mean? So these are the 5 comprising factors of what makes you an individual, right? And the problem is, you look at how the media targets your emotions. So what burns me as well, like with people that I've spoken to, is like, you know, say when it comes to this race divide that's happening, right?
The hijack.
Yeah, I'm like, someone sent me a doco to watch, like to show how, you know, evil, how badly, you know, this certain demographic has been treated. And this doco was insightful because I realized, oh my God, this is not about race. This is so much bigger. It's involving politics. It's involving the agendas of all these people.
Always been.
And I remember writing back to that individual, and all he said to me was, I wish you wouldn't focus on all those things and just look at how they were treated. And it's like,
but that's like the people who say you're so insensitive about all the people that have died from COVID.
Bigger picture.
Well, I equally say, well, you are incredibly insensitive to all the people who died due to COVID, but not the virus, but from the overreaction. So the doubling of suicides and all that. Right. I think you're being completely insensitive to all of those people who died from other preventable diseases during this period, but who get no fucking mention, no lockdown, no funding, nothing. They don't even get a mention. You understand? To me, that it's incredibly disrespectful to them.
I agree with you, 100%.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%.
Like, you know. So definitely crazy times. But again, I think that thanks to this, it might take X amount of months or X amount of years. There might be a long way to travel still, because if we leave it up to these motherfuckers, things are going to get a lot worse before it gets better.
Yep.
That's all up to us.
That's right.
It's all up to the people, and it comes down to everyday things. Yeah. How you spend your money, how you talk to each other, how you spend your time, how you think, how you breathe. Your intention. Intention is such a powerful word that no one really speaks about. You can make money, all the money in the world. If your intention is right, then blessings to you. You will have a very happy life, and you know, and all good things will come to you. You know, if you clean, if you cook for someone, do it with the right intention. That's what makes a big difference, and that's where we all need to, you know, snap out of this hijack, this hypnosis that everyone is under. Yeah, that's exactly, because the world is hypnotized, right. and when you look at it from a spiritual point of view, what you were saying before, the dark forces, this is how they operate.
100%.
And perhaps it's got something to do with 4G and 5G and all of these networks, because that's right. Perhaps it's got to do with the vaccine. Perhaps it's got to do with the shit we eat. Perhaps it's got to do something with the fluoride in the water. Again, bigger picture. Yeah. You know,
or it could be all of them.
That's what I'm trying to say. You know, people kind of pick their things, and it's actually the whole thing is what you need to be looking at. And what I do appreciate again is because of the dark forces having to reveal themselves. Now we're getting a look at what's really going on behind the curtain. Right.
I know. Yeah. I think we're talking about it as well. And I said to you, like, again, Mark Taylor, that one sermon or that one podcast that he did, Don't Panic. He goes, mate, for those that don't believe or have any form of belief, right, it's doom and gloom. He goes, so even the churches that preach doom and gloom, he goes, mate, they need to be silenced.
Of course.
Because he goes, for those that do believe, right, and that have some form of belief, right, this is a time to rejoice, because it's a time of, like you said, awakening. And it's like, darkness loves to live in darkness, right? The Bible says that as well. They refrain from the light because their deeds will be made known, right? No. So right now we've got this thing surfacing in that, and we're thinking, oh my God, the world's gone crazy. No, it's those principalities and dark forces that are manifesting in order to, again, like you said, subdue and go back. So, mate, I don't want to go back to normal, but I want to go back to the next level. I want to progress to the next level.
I mean, you know, when we say, I think there's layers. There's layers, right? I think in life there's layers, and on the surface we want to go back to being able to jump on a plane, go out, you know, normally have our events, and go out and eat without, you know, all these fear and anxiety and people. You know, someone coughs and you know what I mean. But look, man, I think again, the positive note is. You know, none of us were born to live a cruisy lifestyle and just sort of be in our comfort. We're born, life is a battle, and life is war. And essentially, if you look at, say, all the prophets and all these people from all of the religions, they were born into suffering, and that's how we change the world. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, you know, let's get on with the battle, and stay firm in our beliefs, and knowing that good things are coming, and hopefully
be open, know who you are, like attain or challenge yourself to find out who you really are at your core, not based on your emotions, not based on what
other people's opinions,
what people are thinking of you. Find out at your core who you are. All right,
100%. And switch off the fucking television, man.
No, and I realized again, like we were saying prior, you know, they're emotionally unstable. I realized for most of my life I was emotionally unstable. Right. Understand that everything that's being said and being pushed, and the agendas in that is to trigger your emotions, because we're emotional beings.
Of course.
If we could focus and realize find the foundation under the emotions and center and stand yourself on that. Right. your emotions will then be dictated by your spirit.
Yeah. I
You know what I'm
hear you,
saying?
man. I hear you. Yeah.
Like I love what the Bible says. Like, you know,
being so reactionary, yeah.
joy comes from your spirit. The byproduct of joy is happiness.
Yeah.
Right now, your happiness can either be the fact of this ever like foundational joy that you have in knowing who you are. So as a Christian, knowing that I'm a son of God, knowing that God's my Father, knowing who He is to me and who I am in Him, that breeds joy. The joy of the Lord is my strength. What does the strength center into? Your emotions.
Yeah.
Right. So what's the byproduct that comes out of your emotions? Happiness. The problem with the world is that we look to see our surroundings to gain happiness to feed our emotions.
You gotta move over this side, bro.
You know what I mean?
Fucking up my shot.
like, you get what I'm trying to say?
MCs, they talk with their hands, Paulie. Can you make sure the next guy's not an MC?
No. Make sure he's not. Make sure he's not married to an Italian or is Indian.
Yeah, he's got Indian
Talking
and Walking
hands.
MC all together. Look, man, we're gonna get out of here because it's been long enough. We actually got a couple more things to do today, man. But
I can't believe how time flies when you're
but you know
talking,
what?
man.
Thank you so much for joining me, hermano.
Bro,
God
thank you
bless
so much
you.
for having
That was
me, man.
awesome, amazing experience.
I hope
more to
that-
come.
yeah, I hope
Many
that
more to
made
come
sense and-
because the door's open. The door is literally open, and I know that we're going to be speaking on many other issues and many other occasions over the next few weeks and months and years, and hopefully we can get back to work. I know we're working on doing a few streaming things and stuff as well to keep
perfect, bro.
to keep the
big
the
props.
nightclub thing happening.
Yeah, big props to what you've created here, bro.
Thank you,
I mean,
man.
I don't know if you guys can look around, but this is actually phenomenal.
Yeah.
I don't think I've been in a podcast studio that's
Thank
of
you,
this
man.
caliber. Also, man, your whole decision to move from being the mayor of Canberra, you left your mayoral
I left
ship at
my electorate.
Yeah, your electorate in Coogee to like retire on the farm. And, like, what a story.
Yeah. I'm happy, man. I'm happy.
Nah,
you know
man,
what?
it's beautiful, bro.
The 5 years that I spent on Coogee Beach, Coogee life, baby, were incredible, and it was at the right time, and now was the right time to do this. You know, get on the land. I encourage everyone to consider it, to broaden their space and their connection with the land and with nature and with soil and with planting and all those things. And I'm very happy, bro. And again, I'm very happy that you've joined me today, man. It's been an awesome experience.
Mate,
let's do it again.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, my brother.
Like, you're gonna catch me here more often. I want to trek that backyard with bare feet on
Not
and
a
get that
problem,
soil under
hermano.
my feet.
You're here, man. And once we get all the crops and everything happening, man, you know, you got some good organic produce
100%,
whenever
bro.
you're
I'll come and
around.
help out.
God bless, my brother.
Love
Thank
you,
you so
bro.
much, Deekay.
Thanks for
Love
having
you
me, man.
hermano. God bless you.
Shout out, Paulie B.
Thank you, man. And thank you to everybody at home for watching us tonight. I got to do a couple of very quick shout outs, man. Big shout out going out to Crash Claim, who's one of our foundation sponsors, also to Q Corp, and also shout out to Superdry for keeping me warm through this winter. Thank you so much, man. God bless. We'll see you on the next show, man. Muchas gracias.
Take care.
Thank you, hermano.
Peace. Woo!